Good evening. I'm Tim Whitney, member of the HTC. Welcome to the October 9th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission. The commission will review 7 new applications and 3 continued applications. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please, quote unquote, raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you may raise your hand by dialing *9. Our host will mute microphones of those not speaking and in order to preserve bandwidth, and may need to turn off video, with the exception of the commissioners, the host, and the current applicant. The chair will call on commissioners for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask a motion from the commission to continue, to approve with conditions, or to reject, and then a second, and conduct a roll call vote. Once the commission has acted on an application, the applicant is free to leave the meeting. And I'd like to just do a quick roll call. Bill Hewitt.
Here.
Louis Caldarella.
Here.
Walter Clay. Is that a wave, Walter, or are you here muted?
Mute. I muted when I was asked.
But I do see you there.
Here.
Okay, and Melinda,
Sorry,
thank you.
I can't. Can
Melinda
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
Melinda.
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm having trouble getting everybody's face on here. But I'll figure it out. But I can hear you.
Okay. And myself. So these are the 5 voting members for tonight. So we're going to be starting with 92.
I'm sorry, Tim, just one thing.
Yeah.
My screen has everybody displayed on it, Anne. Everyone who's at the meeting, not just commissioners.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, mine too. Okay, very good.
We're going to be starting with 92 Walden Street, which is in the Main Street Historic District, to replace 8 windows. And do we have a representative who can present that, please? And if you're, yes. And if you could identify yourself.
So I'm Robert Fleming, and it's my house, although the application has been submitted by Marvin Windows, and I believe they were supposed to be here tonight.
Yes, Robert. This is Bob Moran. I'm the project manager that was out at your house. I'm on.
Okay.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if they wanted to hear from you or from me. So yes, we are proposing to install 8 insert windows. The plans show there are none located in the front. They're all located on the sides of the house on either side. The windows are made of fiberglass. The frames, the sash, they're as I was reading your the district design guidelines, I just kind of brought up some of the details that it looks like you were looking for. That being what the windows are made of, being fiberglass. They are simulated divided light with the same grill pattern that is existing. Not sure any other questions anybody would have that was not in the material that we submitted, but we're open for any questions.
So all these are the, it's a little hard to figure out where they are in the house with these close-up photos. You're saying they're on both sides and the front, or just the sides?
Just on the sides, nothing on the front of the house. They're all on the first floor except for one on the second floor.
Okay. Let's open it up for commissioner comments.
I'm curious, are they the muntins that can be removed, or are they divided, fully divided?
It's a simulated divided light, so it's a single plane of glass with a muntin or a grill applied to the exterior and the interior with a spacer in between. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Can you speak a little bit about the current windows and whether you explored restoring the current windows?
Current windows, can't say for sure. No, they're wood windows. How old they are, I'm not entirely sure. I'm guessing that the window frames are original. They're very old. The condition of them, I'd say, is fair. They've been painted. They have many, many coats of paint on them.
Yeah, I can comment on that a little bit. So out of the 8 windows, I think 5 of them have been replaced previously. The 5 that have been replaced are relatively modern windows. I don't know, within the last 40 or 50 years, I'd say. I looked at a couple of different options. I mean, I did look at, wooden, just buying wooden windows, and it was very hard to, I mean, you basically have to have them custom made, and then they wouldn't be thermal paint. And so there was a number of drawbacks to doing that. I also looked at other windows, like, I have 2 neighbors that recently replaced some windows. One's right across the street from me, and one of them their lot is adjacent to mine. It's right, butts my lot. They went with Andersen windows, and I did look at those, and I chose not to go with those because they're basically vinyl clad. They're like vinyl windows, and I didn't think it was appropriate. Whereas these windows, they actually look like painted wood. And I actually have some that are quite old. They were put in my house, before I bought the house, 28 years ago. And they still look like painted wood. So I don't know. I felt much more comfortable with that. I thought it was more appropriate for an old house like mine.
And do the current windows have looks like they have triple track storm screens?
So it's a hodgepodge, quite frankly. I'm planning on taking off the storm windows on the new windows that are going in, because they'll be thermal paint, there'll be two planes of glass. But I have a hodgepodge of storm windows that have been put on over the years. Some of them I've taken off, some of them I've left up.
But on the 8 windows you're proposing, the triple tracks would be removed.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too. Of the 8 windows that you're taking out, are any of them original to the house? Do they have the old glass?
No, so out of the 8 windows, 5 of them are relatively modern replacements. It's hard to tell. I don't know, they could be 50 years, it could be 30 years. I don't really know. So there is 3 that are actually older windows. It's hard to say. I don't know if they're actually original. They're very old. They're actually held together with pegs. So, I mean, they've been in there a long time.
Yeah.
They have weighted glass in them. So, I mean, they're quite old. Whether they're original, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Do you mind saying which ones those are? The ones that you think are much older?
So the older ones are, if you look at my house from the front, they're all on the bottom floor. If you look at my house from the front, 1 is on the left, and then 2 are on the right, and they're the bottom floor. So like in that diagram that I just put up, so number 3 in this particular case is, I believe that's an old window. And then on the other side, there's two windows. 2 and 1 are also quite old.
Mhm.
All
guess-
of the windows in the front are very old, and I'm even though they have their own issues, I left them up because they're very old, and I just thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah,
So
I believe the windows that are in the bay, which are numbered 5, 6, and 7,
Mhm.
those are a bit newer. Those are weight pocket windows with ropes and pulleys.
yeah,
So they're newer, but the age I couldn't tell you.
yeah. So yeah, those are definitely more modern windows. I don't. It's hard to know how old they are.
I guess for the trade-off in my mind, my colleagues can comment is the value of having original. I'll use the word original, understanding that we don't know for sure it's original, but if it's seated wavy glass, it's old. Having that with modern triple track storms and screens over top of them versus having a window without the triple track aluminum over them, but losing the historic glass and framing of the sash. Whether you considered keeping those three and having them restored, which can be done quite well these days.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, they're in pretty difficult shape. I mean,
Mhm.
one of those windows, actually, it wasn't one of the real little ones. One of the other ones, it's on the second floor, which is, it's a little bit, it's also quite old, not as old as the ones on the first floor. It's structurally, it was weak. It was wobbly. There was no way to actually get it correctly. I mean, trying to fix it, I think, would have been a mistake, quite frankly.
These, if you're replacing these, are the existing frames remaining, or are you yanking the frames out?
The frames would remain. There would be an insert window.
So is it a frame going inside a frame? Or are
Correct.
you so you're adding another frame inside an existing frame?
That's correct. Yep. It's a fiberglass frame with the sash inside of it.
And so
That's how you get it to fit. Essentially, the opening.
I'm sorry, didn't catch
That's how
that.
you get it to occupy the opening.
Yeah, that's where, we've
Right,
already
the
done
comment
it.
before was that it was difficult to find wood replacements in standard or in similar sizes. In the same way that it's difficult to find fiberglass, but
Yeah, we
uh,
make the
making that work.
windows to fit the opening.
You fit the opening within the existing frame.
Correct.
Existing sash comes out and then a new frame goes within the existing frame.
That's right.
So the window is proportionally getting a little smaller than the existing sash, correct?
That's correct.
There's an extra inch or whatever you're losing on each side, top and bottom.
Correct. In this situation, if you're removing the storms, though, it's actually going to look like they're growing. They're going to be larger because the existing storm windows
Mm.
close down the size.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
lose
sure.
actually glass by doing that.
That's why I'm saying I think the trade-off in our mind is having triple track in old windows. Now the guidelines, as you read, suggest a preference for retaining old sash and leaving the triple tracks. So that's at least the point of departure for us.
Right. Pretty strong recommendation request is to try to leave the sash wherever we can. When all else fails, to replace the window with a wood window, including the frame, so that you don't start to adjust window pane sizes relative to adjacent windows, because you're whatever it is, 6/6. I don't have the drawings in front of me, but it's going to be a slightly different proportion on a very historic house.
That's correct.
Have you considered, has the owner considered replacing these with a wood window, take the frame out and put in a new wood window rather than an insert replacement. I have nothing against Marvin, great company, but you know, this is a wonderful house in a prominent location.
I did look at that, and you know, I didn't find any. It was hard to find somebody that would actually do that, and my hope was that I could get, you know, thermopane glass, you know, 2 panes of glass. It's a hard enough house to heat.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so I mean, I did look at that, and you know, I wasn't really able to come up with anything that I found, and I actually spent a couple of years, you know, kind of, you know, I wasn't intensely looking for a couple of years, but casually I would call people, I'd hear about somebody, and I couldn't really find something that I thought was, you know, was what I was looking for, quite frankly.
well, I
You know, and I
guess
would
it was-
also point out that the house across the street from me, that's putting in these windows that are kind of vinyl, and also the one beside me, they did the same thing. They didn't replace, they didn't put wooden windows in, and they didn't, you know, they didn't have to have custom-made windows put in. They were able to put in windows into the existing frame.
And houses. with
Melinda,
the
excuse me a
same-
minute. Melinda, do you recall, or Anne, was that something that came in front of the commission, those window replacements?
They did. You know, like I said, the house across the street, which is actually older than my house. I don't know, within the last month, I can't remember exactly the date, but it was within the last month.
To answer your question, Tim, I do not recall. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it was 77. I think their number is 77.
And any recollection of that?
No, I'd have to see a slide, the archives. My only thought is that if you already have replaced 5 other windows with newer ones, in this similar situation, I'm not sure that I think this matters that much, because you already have a mishmash, so you're not, but that's.
Was the 5 that were replaced also the frame within a frame approach?
No, I think they were not.
So that's, you know, the question for Marvin is doing, because I know you can do custom sizes, is do a wood frame, wood frame and wood window that replaces the existing frame, so we leave the proportions, and then you've got a fully intact window rather than an insert window.
I'm sorry, you know, I'm not sure I understand the question. What?
Replace
Well,
the
you're
whole
leaving the
window.
existing, take the existing frame out, the window and the frame, and put a new frame and window in that's
You call
proportionally
that like a full frame, like new construction window. Okay.
correct, yeah. And it's a better product for the owner, I would think, and keeps the proportions.
That is a possibility. That's always viable. But that, yeah, would be the owner's decision.
So I think this point was made before. One of the things is because there's storm windows on it. Like I actually had concerns about that, and when you look at the window very carefully, the window, because it has storms on it, it appears much smaller than it is. You know, not much smaller. It appears somewhat smaller than it is, and so by simply removing the storm window and then putting it in the existing frame, it will actually appear bigger than what it is now.
That's true.
You know, although it will lose, you know, some, I don't know. I can't remember what the dimension was.
Yeah, it's a change in detail. You're taking the storm off and then seeing this double frame. So it's a different detail than the original window.
You would not
And
see
neither of
from
them original.
you would not see a double frame. So the way that it works is the insert would tuck in behind the exterior casing. It would not be noticeable that it's a window inside a window.
Well, I guess what maybe what I'm coming around to saying, it'd be nice to understand the existing pane dimensions and what the proposed would do in terms of reducing the pane.
On the proportions.
Um,
Yeah, if we just
I think-
understood it better.
I think the what we're noodling around is a preference for maintaining that detail, acknowledging that the visual effect of those triple tracks makes the windows look smaller. Those triple tracks could come off, right? And what you'd then be left with is windows of different dimensions. So I think I'd like to see a comparison, before and after comparison of the space. And if you're willing to consider what Tim's suggesting of just replace the whole window to maintain that original detail.
Yeah, I'd also have some reservations about losing the original glass on the number 1, 2, and 3. Like the later windows are a different story, but
Yep.
you know, the wavy glass is fairly important.
So the issue with wavy glass is it's very hard. I mean, I've actually repaired some of the windows where there was a crack in the window or something. And it's very hard to take a pane out of an existing window and transplant it into another window. I mean, I got away with doing it because I was doing it myself, and I I could spend the time doing it, but it's a very difficult thing to do.
I will say there are at least 2 people in Concord who are professional old window restorers, and I happen to have used one of them on windows. They're not quite as old as your house, but nearly as old. And some of them were in terrible shape, and they were completely rebuilt using the original glass and most of the original wood. And they're now quite thermally quite efficient. It's hard to do if you're not a professional, but those people do exist, and they're local, and therefore kind of familiar with what our houses in town look like.
Yeah, so I think but I agree with the comment on the 3 windows. I think we'd like to see what you could do as an owner to preserve those, contacting restoration, because that's what we've always come back to on these older houses and older glass. And then consider the ones that are newer windows. If at least we could understand what the visual implications are if you had a detail of a frame, existing frame, and then in sash, and what the insert would be, or consider a new window with a frame. That's really up to you, but we're asking you to just look at this in more depth, considering the age of the house and the prominence.
Robert, I'm
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, I'm a little confused as to why I'm being held to this standard when the house across the street is putting in windows that are, I think, less appropriate than what I'm asking for, and they have been approved. But
I don't know what that,
I believe the number is 77 Walden Street, and I think it was within the last month they've gotten approval to do this.
I don't remember that the last 2 years. Walter?
If it was in the last month, we should be able to recall it very easily. But you say it was in the last month that they did the work, or the last month that it was approved?
So is this the house?
Yes, that's the house right there.
I don't think the HTC reviewed this. At least not to my record.
Oh, no, sorry, it's at 79, I guess, Walden Street.
This is 79, I believe, right?
That's 70.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
it.
no. I'm sorry. That is not the house. It's the next one down.
Side? Sorry. This one?
No, it's one back, right? Yes, that's the house there, actually.
I don't remember the HTC reviewing this project.
Right. So we haven't reviewed this property, so we can't comment on that.
As an aside, we should follow up, but that's another matter.
Yeah. So,
What, so. So one thing I could do is I could look into the 3 windows that are original or nearly original, and then the other 5 windows. I'm a little bit unclear. What are you looking for?
We're asking for 2 things. I think first is the dimensions, the comparative dimensions of the existing openings with the proposed insert openings. What's literally the dimensions? And then second, if you're willing to consider a full window replacement as opposed to the insert.
And Robert, I could inquire about, I'd have to come out there and take additional measurements, and we could have some CAD drawings produced that would show, the difference in the proportions of the 2 different options. If that helps.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
thank you.
And then there's a third part of this as well, which is if there is a way to preserve the 3 old sashes, the recommendation is that there are crafts people in Concord who would be able to examine that and give you a learned opinion and be able to do the work, we assume. The other, that's the third thing. I certainly would like to see that as well. I think bottom line, for me, bottom line, there are 2 things. One, we don't have documentation of what you're actually proposing in great detail unless I missed something. And that would be, since the questions have come up, that would certainly be something that would be important for us to have to be able to understand better. And I suppose I can stop there. But we'd like to know what that is. I would like to know what attempts can be made to save the original fabric as what you're asking for, or what anyone in your position would be asking for, is contrary to most of the guidelines that we're trying to run by.
So the comment was made that there's people in town that do this. I wasn't having much luck turning that up. Can you?
I think there's a list actually on the HDC site, isn't there, Anne?
So we're not allowed to recommend specific contractors, but you can, say that you've used a contractor in the past. And so if you want to give us a call, I can, and if the commission members share the information with me, I can share it back out with you.
I'll be happy to do that.
So can we try a motion here?
Well, I think we're looking for a continuance, right?
You want to fully propose that? Walter?
I move that we continue the discussion for the windows at 92 Walden to the next meeting of the HDC. So that should give, 3 weeks on now? Next schedule? That's enough time.
And just elaborate a bit, Walter, on what we're asking, if you could.
And we're asking for a consultation with an historic window restoration expert to ascertain this will be long then, to ascertain the condition of what may very well be original 3 panes, and we are looking to have have documentation, drawings or CAD drawings would be fine, of what the proposed replacement sashes would look like with their associated secondary frames. And what the possibility would, not say long-winded, and what the possibility would be for a complete replacement sash with the historic appearance of the windows that would be removed. How's that?
It's very long-winded,
I'll
but I think
second
you got it.
I'll second it.
Second it. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And just for
Thank-
clarification,
Thank you, Bob and Rob.
sorry,
Okay.
just for clarification, the next HTC meeting is on October 30th, so the continuance is to October 30th.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Okay, next item is 73 Main Street to install a roof vent. Who is presenting that? Hi, Joan. And you're muted.
Hi. Hello.
If you could just proceed with the description, it would be great. Thank you.
Certainly. 73 Main Street is where Sally Ann Bakery is. And Mr. Griffin, the proprietor, has been doing some upgrades to the equipment and the interior. And at the suggestion of, I believe, both the building department and the Board of Health, he was asked to have separate venting for his two very large gas ovens that are in the back of the bakery. I personally do not want those vented. And that's straight ahead. I do not want the ovens vented through the chimney, which vents the furnace. I want dedicated venting. And it would be, and if you stop at this one, it would be at the back of the building, which is on the municipal parking lot. And approximately above that white screen door, about 5 feet back on the flat roof, is where a 10-inch, what has been described to me and to Mr. Robillard, my contractor, a 10-inch pipe in circumference would penetrate that flat roof, and then there would be a cap or a hat on that pipe. Yesterday, I was out in the back and I noticed that there are already two, and if you stop at that other one, yeah, there are already two roof vents on that roof that are probably sewer vents for both brines and the bakery. So it would just be an additional vent to help with the exhaust of the ovens.
How close is that to the edge of the wall? Again, if you
It's probably
approximately
in by about 4 feet inward and about 5 or 6 feet back. It would not, I don't think it would be visible from the walkway between the Cambridge Trust and my building. It would be visible from this view, but so are the other two vents.
and I think there's a manufacturer's cut in the presentation as well of that vent,
Yes, I sent that in today.
if you have that.
That's it.
And could that be painted black?
I believe, I think it's galvanized metal, so I'm pretty sure it could be. That's the
Anything-
cap portion of it. And then there is a pipe that affixes to it that goes up, I don't know, about 2 feet, I think.
So the total height of this with the cap would be
2 to 3 feet. similar to
Anything-
the other
yeah.
ones.
Right. Anything else?
No. I
Thank
think
you.
that's about it, but it would certainly assist him with his renovations.
If I may open it up to the commissioners for comment.
I have no problem.
Thank you,
Seems appropriate.
thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well. May we have a motion?
Sure. I move we approve the application for 73 Main Street as submitted.
Thank
Can
you.
we add
very
it
much.
be, could we add it be painted black as well?
Yes, absolutely. I am going to text Mr. Robillard right now to tell him I want them painted black. And I think it's a great suggestion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. I guess I should go person by person, shouldn't I? Melinda?
Aye.
Excuse me, let me step back a minute. I forgot to do this on the last one. Are there any public comments on this? There are no public comments, so we'll go with the roll call. Melinda?
Aye.
Louis?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I am an I as well, and I thank you for coming in and good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, next one, 421 Main Street, another window replacement discussion. It's in the Main Street Historic District. Do we have someone there who can speak to that?
Yes, hello, I'm here, Mary Ann Spencer.
And I see someone else waving as well. Yvonne?
Erica?
You're-
Hello,
Could you just identify your roles if you would?
okay, so I am Mary Ann Spencer on 419 Main Street. Half of a condo that's 421, 419 Main Street.
Okay, thank you. And if you could just describe the project.
I'm representing Women Bank, and she's the owner of the condo, part of the condo. We recently moved at the end of August to Concord, and well, we didn't kind of know about like the noise because we are close to the train rail. So Women has some problems, like health problems, kind of trying to sleep, and she would like to replace only like the bedrooms windows to kind of reduce a little bit like the noise from the train. So she would like to replace the windows by this it's like the side of the house and the back. There is one window on the front on the second floor, but we can maybe omit it, or we can replace that one in the front, but maybe in the back and in the side, in the third floor and the second floor. She would like to do it. Let me see, how can I share? Yes,
Yes, you should be able to share. Or I can bring up the Google Maps image.
yeah, so like most, this is like the side of the house, and one window in the back. If she would like to do like a soundproof window, because actually also they are very old windows. What is did I share it or no? I didn't. Oh, okay. For this. This one. Can you see my screen or not? Oh,
No.
No.
oh, let me see. How can I'm trying to share the picture. Share and not sound just. Okay, I see it. Okay, so those were like the windows on the second floor. Those like just like the bedrooms. Let me see where is that. That one is in the back, and oh, where is the other one? Sorry, again, yes, this one is the exterior, and then how can I? Yeah. Okay. And yeah, the three on the top, like the second and third floor.
And if we couldn't tell how what these new windows material was. I saw a Harvey window, but what are they made of?
And that's,
I'm sorry?
the constructor can help to explain. Yes, I don't, like the material of. But
Hi,
like they are.
contractor. My name is Zach. The material will be vinyl.
And who is
So the Harvey vinyl windows you're putting
speaking
in.
right now?
I'm sorry?
Who is this speaking right now?
My name is Zach. I'm the contractor.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to, so you're proposing vinyl window replacements, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Marianne, I'm sorry, do you live adjacent or?
so I live in 419. The condominium is 419-421.
Okay.
I'm an owner resident. 421 is an absentee. So I'm very, very concerned, as the board is, about the historic preservation of the building here in Concord. I just want to make sure that this beautiful old building that is very important to our neighborhood continues to look the same.
So,
Yeah,
excuse me, are you public comment then?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Marianne, I thought you were part of the ownership of this building. This
I
is really a
am part of the ownership of the building. I own half of it.
right,
I own 419.
right, but we're not in the public comment phase at this moment. We're really just trying to understand what 421 is proposing.
Okay,
And then we can come back to your comments, if that's okay.
okay.
Thank you.
So we will try to keep it like from outside most of what like it is right now. We want to see like we can adapt some most as we can. Just kind of we would like to reduce a little bit the noise. Because she, the owner, she has some health issues like with sleeping, so that's why.
Okay, I think we should open up to commissioner questions.
I have
Walter.
two. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Well, I was going to say the first observation is we don't have details of what the proposed replacement windows would be. Is that correct? The
We-
material, yeah.
We did
material
send the
manufacturer.
application. I'm sorry.
It is in the application?
Yes, we did the application, but they asked us to send like the material that is vinyl and like the pictures of the windows that we would like to replace. So I sent that today, like this morning, because we didn't know before.
Okay, so Anne, do we have that information then?
I sent to before, let me see. This just before, just 1 second.
In the packages I saw this afternoon, there was the tear sheet that showed the dimensions and specs, but I didn't see that it had material on it. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see whether it was vinyl or fiberglass or wood.
Vinyl, yeah, vinyl. The constructor said it's vinyl.
They're
Well,
vinyl 1/1 windows, Walter, I think is what the cut is.
Okay, I thought I had read through all the material. I missed it then. I am probably among everyone here, I am probably the most expert on sound and reducing sound levels. It's a big part of my life. I and in my house currently, as part of the construction, we went to great lengths to isolate the sound in part of it. And it's a very difficult thing in my experience to accomplish with commercial windows that exist, which is why I'm very curious as to what brand and what manufacturer these might be. So my question, I have a series of questions. One is, have you actually taken sound level tests? Have you used a meter to see what the level is when a train goes by that you're trying to reduce? And that's the first question. The second is, as I say, I don't know of any relatively easily available window that would have enough of an impact on sound to make it worth doing all this. And I'm saying that because there are other ways to accomplish what you're trying to do. I live on a busy street, and there's a lot of traffic. I hardly ever hear the train, though occasionally, if there's enough fog, I do. But we have in part of the house inserts that go on the inside of the window frames. And they are, with apologies, and I'll sneak it in, the company is called Indo Windows. They have two different series, and one is for thermal use, and they're interior storm windows that when they are put in place are hardly visible. They also have a series that deadens sound considerably. And I would imagine, first off, that it could very well be a more effective approach than trying to replace a window, especially if it's not a window that is very specifically designed to lower the sound level. And it might be, with apologies to contractor, a lot more approachable in terms of its cost. So that's my piece.
Bill?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my comments have been, Walter covered my comments.
My question is, do we know the condition of the windows and are they original?
Yeah, they look original. They are like very, very old, like maybe more than 30 years old. I mean, not original, but like, yeah, because this building is from 1892, as far as I know, right? But yeah, the windows are very old. Actually, they have like two glasses there. But well, just yeah, because she has kind of health issues. The owner has.
Just a reminder, we're not in public comment yet. We're just commissioners asking questions. So we're getting a proposal for vinyl windows, 1/1 vinyl windows in a 2/2 wood sash house. And just as we had discussion 20 minutes ago, we take window placement very seriously, and this is a lovely old house. And we would, just as Walter was mentioning, there are other ways to address sound attenuation without changing the look of the windows. I'll let the other commissioners speak, but I think we'll still want to be looking at a wood 2/2 window, and certainly not a vinyl 1/1 replacement window.
And only a partial replacement on the overall windows.
So this is a 2/2 house. It seems to be most of the windows. Some are a little bit different, but whether it's salvaging the existing wood window or replacing the wood window with a very similar wood window, it could be insulating glass, but we'd like to have you look at seeing if you could keep the existing windows with a sound sash on the inside is one idea. But we'd have a hard time approving any vinyl windows or windows that look quite different from what you have. Any other? Yes, go ahead, Yvonne.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like maybe I can ask my contractor if like the exterior is going to be like the same, like he can keep it kind of the same, just maybe from the inside to change it.
Right.
I think what we're suggesting is there's a non-window replacement option that might be more effective from an acoustic standpoint and less expensive. That the current proposed windows are not acceptable under the guidelines.
The windows we ordered is specially designed for soundproofing. It's a triple layer. So the soundproofing is much more efficient than the traditional, than the current 2-layer windows. So that's why we want to replace them rather than just do some, improvements.
Right, we understand that, but we're fundamentally focusing on the appearance of the windows. We're touching on acoustics because it's part of the topic, but that's not per se our purview. We need to have a window that looks appropriate to the house. And that may be an insulating glass. You may decide to come back and present a wood frame window with insulating glass and properly sealed and around the frame so it's tighter. But we will not be approving a Harvey. And Harvey does these windows for airports, essentially, these vinyl windows. They're very good for that, but that's not going to be something that we're going to be able to approve tonight. So we're asking you to, windows are you can hear from the meeting we're having tonight, windows are very critical, very important to us in terms of what they look like. And especially for this lovely house, which is what it is. We're asking you to go back and rethink this. So it looks like either preserve the windows and put some treatment inside, or you can consider possibly coming back and with a substitute window that looks just like what you have now, and we could consider that as well, if you're amenable to that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing you're nodding, so I'll take that as we can proceed on that approach. I'd like to open it up for public comment. I see, Marianne, you have your.
Quick question.
Oh,
Have
sorry.
windows
Yeah, Walter,
already
go ahead.
been, have the windows already been ordered? Is that what I heard?
That's correct.
Well, that's
Unfortunately.
sorry to hear that. That's why we always have people try to come before us, so we're not causing any anguish. But any other committee comments? I just want to check before I open it up for public comment.
You're gonna get rid of the screen.
Hi, I'm Marianne from the next.
Is it
door.
Marianne? Just one second. I just want to be sure. No other committee comments?
No.
commissioner comments? Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm the condo mate, and my priority is the integrity of the building and the integrity of the neighborhood and the integrity of, you know, this beautiful building in Concord. So I really, really want the building to continue to look the way it looks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, can we have a motion, please? Walter, it seems to be all you tonight.
Well, I'm not fully aware of what the consequences are of denying the application. It's either a denial, certainly not an approval. It's either a denial or a continuance. I guess I would suggest a continuance at this point.
Yeah.
So then I move that we continue the discussion about the windows at 419-421 Main Street to the next meeting of the HDC on the 30th, with the request that alternatives to replacing the windows are investigated, and that in lieu of that a matching a window design that matches the existing visually is presented to us for consideration.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Melinda,
Aye.
Louis,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So good luck, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Concord Museum, 53 Cambridge Turnpike, American Mile Historic District to install a sign. And who are we hearing from tonight?
Lisa Krasner's here, as well as Allison Schilling. Hi.
Hi.
And Billy Crosby, who has been asked to do this, to do the sign. So I guess I will lead off with in 2017, we brought this proposal to the HDC for a sign at the intersection of Cambridge Turnpike and Lexington Road. And because of construction on Cambridge Turnpike, and then preceded by, you know, also construction at the museum, the project actually never moved forward. And now with the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution and all of the, you know, influx of visitors coming in the coming year, and the fact that we also recently rebranded the museum, we wanted to move forward with installing the sign at that intersection. It's a very low profile sign that would be installed behind the wall that's in place. So Billy Crosby has helped us with the installation. He could probably speak to, you know, the concrete base and the steel tubes and the manufacturing of the sign. But essentially we're, you know, revisiting something that was reviewed about 7 years ago.
Is there someone else who's going to be speaking?
I wasn't sure if Billy was going to speak to the sign. If you have any questions on the sign construction, certainly Billy could speak to it. Oh, sorry.
No,
And-
it's Billy. I'm just saying I can answer anything I can answer if somebody has a question.
But as this is a major intersection, you know, and the museum itself is not signed in that area. And also as visitors come from the center of town out, we're not well marked. And as you know, the museum was built, the original building, that side was built to look like a home. So in studies we've done, we are aware that visitors often mistake it for a home. And, we just think that it would be a wonderful opportunity to move forward with, signage to better mark the building. And we think this is a pretty low profile, solution and, honors the neighborhood and, fits in with, the rest of the campus. So, we're just, would love to move forward. We also, the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism, is supportive of this and is willing, has approved for a matching grant to pay for half of the sign as well.
Huh? No, because you don't have a microphone. You need this microphone. Your video.
I need everyone to mute themselves, please, if we're getting some feedback. Thanks. Anything else, Lisa?
I don't think so. Allison, do you have anything that you wanted to add? You've been working on this as well. She was here for the original 2017.
I think you said it well. We did a recent study of our visitors and learned that about 50% of people who visit the museum come either because of word of mouth or because of walking by. And as you know, all of Lexington Road are the major historic sites. So people come from the North Bridge and the Robbins House through town to the museum and then to the Orchard House. So being better marked on that walkway would help with our foot traffic.
Can I ask, to me, there's a sort of bifurcation here. If the sign is precisely as was approved in 2017, that's a different discussion than if it is a modification of what was approved in 2017.
It's almost exactly the same. Since we rebranded, we no longer use a serif, we use a sans serif, so that the font of Concord Museum is slightly more modern, and there was like a black outline around the frame of the sign, but it was pretty much the same. It was a white sign with black text. We were told that since like 2 years had lapsed, we needed to come back.
So this was approved previously? Maybe I missed that.
Yes, in 2017. But then
that sign and that size.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that location also.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the only difference is the proposed font.
The font has changed as
Font
we've
style, not font size.
Right.
Color's the same.
Right.
And significant rebranding elsewhere, correct?
We rebranded last year after 20 years of the other logo we had in place.
Does this sign, I don't know, how does it sit relative to that old front door on that green space? Is it aligned with it, or is it off center, or is there no relationship, or do you know?
It's I would say that we tried our best to align it with the trees that were there, so the trees weren't blocking it. But so I don't think it's quite dead set in front of the front door. It's quite a distance. That land there we call the heater piece. I mean, there's probably at least 100 feet or more to the front door. So it's quite a distance to the front door, to that door. In terms of the total lawn. And the placement was the most obvious one that kind of, was between some trees and bushes.
Again, is that position the same as was approved in 2017?
Almost. There were a couple more trees there.
No, not the trees. I mean, literally the.
Yeah, it might have moved a little
coordinates
bit.
And where it's sitting.
Yeah, there are fewer trees there than there were. I think the town has taken some trees out, so there are fewer trees there. But yeah, I think it's pretty close, or if not, it's probably exact, but we could double check. It's pretty close.
So I have a couple of questions. One is you were explaining that people coming from closer downtown would be attracted by it, and yet this sign is facing in the opposite direction, right?
No, this is at the Lexington
So a
and
pedestrian
Cambridge
coming
Turnpike.
from downtown will see it.
So if you're walking from
Yeah.
downtown toward, towards the museum, you
Mhm.
would see it. We have no
I was-
signage in that
I was
direction.
turned around, okay. And then there's a question about sign bylaw, and you already have 2 signs, right?
We do. We have the sign
So-
the sign at the front entrance on Cambridge Turnpike, which is more prominent. We have the sign at Lexington Road, which is slightly hidden. And we are aware that there was a conversation with the buildings department, and we need to put in a zoning board application for variance.
So, yeah, so our approving it is not the final step in this by any
Right.
means.
I mean, we'd like permission to proceed to the zoning board.
Mhm. I understand.
My questions, the rebranding you came back with the, I thought was tremendously clever logo.
Thank you.
And I live on Lexington Road, right down the street. This is my blink reaction, but I'm having a hard time with the sign relative to the extraordinary care and creativity that you put into these 2 signs on Lexington and Turnpike. It's a very blank, different kind of thing that doesn't sing. That's not a to me. And I'm just, you've all been thinking and looking about this way more than I have, but I'm just wondering how you see this sign relating to everything else there, because I totally get the need to have a sign there. I can understand that. But it's, I just not sure it's helping that view. And I'm just wondering what else you might have considered rather than coming back with the same sign that might be slightly off center to this door. That's, it's because you're all creative folks there. So just wondering, how does it relate? Or is it just completely turning its back on this wonderful stuff you've done? So.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for the compliment on the work. So I will say that we, the 3 colors of the rebrand were red, white, and black. We did not think that a red sign was probably going to necessarily be approved for that section. So we kept the color palette of the black and white, in use and consistent. It does have, it's the new font, so that's there. But we did not put the lantern, the CM lantern isn't in there. Again, I think it was just to kind of keep it a little bit more simple. I mean, we could certainly come back with something more designed. But
Yeah,
I think,
right. I get you. It's also big. It's right. It's 10 feet long or something. If I got the dimension right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's 10 feet.
And it seems not so subtle to me as well. The placement relative to that building, I know it's a long ways away, but that seems to me to be a key decision, which is obviously you're seeing this thing obliquely from a bunch of different directions, but I guess I'd like to know if the commission members have concerns like I do on just careful consideration of placement, super careful, and size of sign. I get what you're saying about font and color and simplicity and no logo. That makes sense. It's just the more simple, the better in a way. And I'm thinking quieter, and still getting the message across. But that's me. So.
Can I make one other comment about the color? We did, think about doing a red sign with the white font to match Cambridge Turnpike and Lexington Road, but in that location, we're not putting in lighting. There's no lighting plan there. So we felt that the white sign with black font would be more readable, like later into the day.
Yeah.
I was thinking about to the stone wall there. It seemed like they were almost flush, the sign with the wall. Was I reading it correctly?
It's installed behind the stone wall on the museum side. So
Yeah.
it's kind of in the garden bed.
But it's
I
supposed to
wonder if it
feel
was
like
separated from the stone wall a little, it would be read more visibly.
The rendering shows that it may be a foot above the stone wall, the bottom of it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. In the picture, it looks like it's on the stone wall.
No, it's raised.
How
It's-
far is it set back from the wall?
There's a couple of feet of gardening of vegetation a bed there, but I think it was going to be fairly close to the stone wall. I don't know, Billy, I don't know if you could speak to how many inches back it was going to be.
Yeah, and it was, we could go dead center on the stone wall. We would just have to drill through the stone wall to have it centered on the wall. And then if there was going to be 3 supports from behind, because we didn't want to go in front of the stone wall to be too close to the street, we could go through the wall too, and it might look kind of nice if the pipes just came up or the supports just came up through the center of the wall. So right now we were having it just on the back. Basically, just the supports would be an inch or so behind the back, and then you're seeing it from such a long distance that it would be it would just appear to be floating over there, or like I say, if somebody thought it would be better if it was in the center of the wall, so that wall was the support for it. You know, the wall is a really shaky wall right now, so we would have to. It would be, you know, we would have to still go into the ground and support it, but we could go through the stones in the wall if we had to make that work. And then part of the other question that I heard was, you know, where is it left to right? And then so we went way back. So if somebody basically got to about the gun house where they sort of have to make a decision, or, you know, not go blowing by on Lexington Road where that sign is not the main entrance, or it's not as big a sign. It's the same size sign, but the other one's more prominent. And so it would be the view changes as you drive in. So when we went back about 200 feet, or maybe even a little bit more, to the gun house, took that original picture, and then ended up, as you drive by, it starts actually looking farther to the right. So it changes in perspective from where you are. And when we lined it up with the front door, which we kind of always liked that idea, even if it's going to change as you got closer, there's a really big light box that's really takes away from it. So we just cheated it over to the right till it felt like it was a pretty nice balance from the farthest distance where people would first see it. They would appear more centered, but that light box really got in the way to line it up with the door. And then this is way back when it was the first one was proposed or passed. Was centered on the door. The light box wasn't there, and there were a bunch of trees there, and so they were sort of. The natural spot was in between 2 of the big trees that were there. Other than that, it would be the same. And my only other comment would be and they've already talked about it a little bit, but you know, I think their branding would be nice on there, but the fact that it had been approved before, I think everybody just kind of thought it would be an okay idea to go with whatever was branded, whatever was designed before, but it was very simple. It was a different look back then. So, you know, I would propose if the board would be interested, or the guys in the museum would be interested, you know, we could look at it, you know, a look with a little more closer to the branding too. I mean, you know, if that would help, you know what I mean?
We're open to suggestions for sure.
Yeah,
Any other board comments, other comments?
Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna you have a new branding, you have these beautiful new signs that are working well. To have some sign that doesn't quite go with the others is a little bit dissonant. It might be nicer to have more consistency with your branding and have more. I don't think the red is that upsetting considering it's right on Lexington Road already. It might be better for you to have more consistency in your branding.
Okay.
It'd be nice to see another sign that was
Mhm.
consistent with what you already have.
Do we want to ask them to go back and look at colors? I'm a little leery of putting the sign on the top of the wall. I just don't, I don't think we want to be touching stone walls like that. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think maybe
Uh,
it was misunderstood. I meant to separate it out.
You mean the lateral,
Yeah,
not not altitude, the sort of lateral distance.
correct.
Yeah, right.
Correct. Yeah.
Um,
On that score, I might suggest this is an important enough placement that a site visit with a mock-up, even if it's wood, would I think make everybody a little more comfortable.
yeah, that's a good idea. It's very hard looking at the photograph and getting a sense. I think that's a great suggestion. And if you're amenable, because that's a big deal sign, kind of, at a major intersection, and
Sure, we'd be happy to,
just
do some redesigns, some options, and also do like a mock-up or two that we can do a site visit with. We want everybody to feel comfortable with this.
that'd be great. Thank you very much for that.
You could do it on foam core or styrofoam.
Sure, sure.
Right.
Although I would say I'd like to see the pipe supports to scale. I think putting a 2x4 in is not enough. I think the appearance of that modern round support, it'd be good to look at what that looks like physically.
Okay. So the steel, you want to see the steel tubing?
Yeah, or something it's roughly
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
Black PVC, that's the
black
same
PVC, exactly.
and styrofoam sign is fine.
I mean, to Tim's point, this is probably the biggest sign in Concord except for the Colonial Inn.
Do we have any public comments?
So can I just say before that?
Yes,
Yeah,
Walter, go ahead.
I mean, my take on it, as Bill is sort of pointing out, is it's an awful lot of sign, and without, in my visual experience, a lot of reference or precedent in the area. I understand what you're trying to do, but it's a pretty big chunk of sign, pretty close to the downtown, right there. And
Would you be willing to look at size as well for consideration as you're looking at options?
Sure, absolutely.
Part of that, if it is 100 feet away from the building, whatever, I think even being that large, it loses a lot of its effect between the positioning of the sign and when you get to the museum that's looking smaller and smaller from that far away. To me, it's not that it's absolutely confusing, but it's almost more confusing to have it that far away than even giving it size than you might be imagining.
So we did look at a couple of different sizes. When we put this out there, we looked at, and this was sort of the middle size. So we did look at a couple of different sizes, but we can.
That's terrifying.
So we can, as we think about, the overall look and feel of the sign, I think we can play with size as well and scale.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments before we open it to the public? No? Okay, any public comments? It's all quiet, so if I could have a motion, please. Okay, Louis.
I move that we have a continuance to discuss the Concord Museum sign with additional samples of design and a mock-up and a site visit.
And we normally have site visits at 8 AM the morning of the next meeting, if that works for you. So that would be
Be the 30th.
the 30th, would be 8 AM on the 30th
Okay.
for,
Okay, we'll aim for that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get a redesign put together by
yeah,
then.
you can let Ann know if that's a problem, but we'll shoot for that.
Okay.
And we appreciate you accommodating our requests on this.
Oh, absolutely. We want to get this right and have everybody support it. So thank you.
Right. So let's see, for the motion, I guess, and we need roll call.
Need a second.
Oh,
I
sorry.
second.
Thank you, Walt. You second? Okay.
I second.
Walter,
Aye.
Louis,
Aye.
Melinda,
Hi.
Bill,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. Thank you very much for presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, next project is 363 Main Street, Main Street Historic Districts to install a fence with various plantings. Will Adams, will you be presenting tonight?
I sure will. Hi, everybody. My name is Will Adams. I'm owner of the home at 363 Main. Our proposal is to put a fence across the front of the property. Style of fence is one that is pretty common in the historic district of Concord. It's in place in several spots. Notably, I think I mentioned in my note 125 Walden, where I included some pictures. I noticed that somebody was screen sharing. It might be helpful to do that now, or I'm happy to do it. What's the easiest way for that to happen? Oh, Anne, thank you. Great. That's a great place to start. If you're able to see that, those are two images of the front of our home, so that you can picture it in your own eye, is where Elm Street hits Main. If you were coming down Elm Street and ran right through Main, you'd run right into this front yard. And the idea of the fence is it's twofold. One, we think it's going to improve the curb appeal of the home and just make it a little nicer looking from the street. We're going to have various plantings behind the fence as well. And two, for us, being inside the home, that's a very busy intersection. And just to have a little bit of separation so that as we look out our windows, we're not looking at every car that goes by, or at least we're getting a little bit of coverage that will be nice as well. You can see on these images, there are currently 4 granite posts that run across the front of the house, right along the sidewalk there, one on each corner of the property, and then one flanking either side of the walkway that goes up to the front door. Those granite posts pre-existed our ownership. We've been owners for about 2.5 years. The notion is to run a white fence, basically in between the position of those posts. Those posts, as you can see from these images, are of a newer style of granite. Our proposal would be to change the posts and to put more of a old, what they call reclaimed granite in place of that. We think that would look better and a little more in keeping with historic Concord. If the commission prefers to keep the existing posts, we're open to that as well. But that our proposal would be to replace them. And then the style of fence is what you see here in these images. Reliable fencing makes that fence. It is a wooden cedar fence, which would then be painted white, stands 36 inches tall, and the sections are 8 feet long. The sections are separated by posts, which you can't really see in looking at the fence, but for the fact that they have a post cap on them, which is another 3 inches above the height of the fence. So the fence rail sits at 36 inches. Each of those wooden posts would sit at 39 inches. And then the current granite posts stand 44 inches tall at their point. Our proposal would be to keep that exact height. Again, we can keep these posts or replace them with reclaimed granite, which would be basically in the same size, which would be in exactly the same height. These granite posts right now are 10 inches square. If we were to do it exactly the way we'd like to do it, we'd change those to 16 inches square, which is a little more in keeping with the size posts that are at the homes across the street. But again, that's not a really important detail for us. I think that's as much detail as I can think to share. What questions do all of you have for me?
Open it up for commissioner questions.
I'll go first. I guess thank you for a well thought through and prepared submission.
Thanks, Bill.
Just confirm that my understanding is the number of granite posts and their placement will remain the same. The intervening posts, if you will be cedar. Did I understand that right?
Yes, that's correct. The intervening posts run every 8 feet. The panels the reliable fencing makes are 8 feet long, so there's a post in between them. But yes, your understanding is correct.
And you're proposing if you go your hoped for path of replacing them with larger posts, would those be similarly? The photograph suggests the ones that are there now are polished and pretty precisely
exactly
chamfered. Would you do the chamfering and polishing, or would they be rough hewn?
We'd prefer them rough hewn.
Okay.
And I again, not the biggest deal in the world to us. That just feels more in keeping with what we see along Main Street, and I personally like the look of it more. So we'd go that direction, but again, could keep these if preferred.
Thank you.
Do you know how old the current granite posts are?
Kristen, I wish I did. I have no idea. They pre-exist our ownership. I don't know. I don't know.
Anne has her hand up. She may have a historic fact.
Right, I did check the file, and those were actually installed in, I think, 2009 or 2006, so they're very, very recent. Historically, there were no granite posts on that site.
And they were supposed to be tied to an iron fence, is that correct?
Right, there
Originally?
was a plan to, there's a approved plan to install a fence with these granite posts and then a wrought iron fence in between them. So apparently they just installed the posts but never installed the wrought iron fence.
Well, that's that makes sense. I wondered about that. That makes more sense. That's some good history.
I mean, I think in general, we're always favoring wood posts because granite posts mixed with wood fences really was not done that much. And Belinda, I don't know in your tenure when this granite post and wood fence mix, how much discussion does that generate?
I don't recall any questions about that. We have had people put in posts that we thought were going to be too tall. This doesn't seem too tall to me. At 36 inches, I think that's well within what we like to see. But I don't recall turning anybody down or even I don't recall any conversations about.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Melinda, I do want to clarify one thing. The sections of the fence, the rail of the fence itself would be 36 inches. These posts currently stand 44 inches. Our proposal would be to keep that the same. Frankly, it doesn't matter that much to us. If we wanted to lower them to 42 or 40, it's just a matter of how, deeply we sink them. But they're currently at 44. So they would stand a little bit higher than the fence itself. But that as I've walked around Concord, that seems to be a pretty common approach.
have to take your word for that.
I've spent too much time looking at fences.
I do have one other question, though. You're not gonna go down, it's just the front, you're not gonna go down a driveway or down one of the sides?
That's correct. That's correct.
Oh.
Is there a gate involved?
No, there's no, we had thought about gating that front walkway, but it's not meant to be a secure fence, and so we thought actually not to do that. It would just cause more inconvenience for people coming to the front door. Again, we'd be open to doing it if that were something preferred, but it didn't seem to make sense to us.
Well, I have a few comments. One is if you're looking to go to a 16-inch square, which is quite a bit larger than a standard granite post. So to me, to my eye, it makes it just a little bit more out of scale. I understand that that's the size of the fence across the street, but the fence across the street is an iron fence, right?
It is. That's
Very
right.
low. And
Yep.
in that case, the 16-inch probably gives it more visual support because it's the fence itself is much less visual impactful. But as you go down the street there, how many wood fences are there in your neighborhood? It looks like to me most of them are either iron, which would be fitting for the time.
If you go down the third house down, and on my side of the street walking towards town, very old, historic, smaller home that the owner's done just a beautiful job renovating by himself over the course of the last couple of years. You may know the property. They have this same white fence on both sides along Main Street, and then you take a right up that alley that runs into the train track. I'm forgetting the name of it. But that home, I don't know the address, but it's the third one, the third house down from ours.
So a couple of us. There's an awful lot of hedges as well.
There are hedges. Then directly across the street from him, that's oh gosh, Rod Riedelman, is it? Rod, I'm forgetting his last name. Lovely guy. He has a white wooden fence as well. Sits at about 30 inches. Those are the two in that direction in that block, in our block. Others are
see across the street too on Main Street is wrought iron with granite post.
correct. Yeah, directly across the
on that.
street. That's right. Directly across the street is wrought iron. Yeah, it's a mix.
Have you ever considered sheathing the granite in wood to have a wood fence? That's just a straight.
Yeah, Walter, I haven't, and honestly, I mean, I don't think we probably have a slight preference for granite, which is why we propose it. If we ended up with wooden posts at the ends, I think we'd be pretty unhappy about that too. There's granite there now, which is probably
Just
what got us thinking.
a stray thought that you might not have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibility.
Yeah, so I guess I'm shy about going to the 16 because just to me
I would agree with that. I mean, that's a pretty
lot.
massive size for
lot of granite.
a wood fence termination.
Yeah.
The current ones are 10. We could keep them that size. We could go to 12. I think skinnier than 10 would start to look kind of
Can you get reclaimed 10 or 12?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think that's better.
Okay.
16 would be.
Yeah.
Do you all agree about the reclaim versus this polished look? That was my instinct, but do you have a feeling about that?
I don't think any of us are really fans of granite, bottom line, but.
I'm a fan of granite.
Well, sure, I like. Oh, I like
Being a
granite. just
student
fine.
of granite. I think the rough hewn is more consistent with historic character than the what's there looks polished like a tombstone. Looks
Yeah.
like that's not historically accurate.
I agree with Bill. The polish is terrible.
We're all in agreement on that then.
And I think a 10-inch rough hewn that's not too much higher than the wood fence, rather than sticking up 8 inches high or whatever it is. Just so it's just these posts aren't attracting a huge amount of attention.
Sure. Tim, what if we did again, the rails at 36 inches, the wood posts, the little caps stand to 39. If we brought the granite post just a couple inches above that, that would get us to 41, let's say it.
Right.
Does that seem reasonable?
Well, we're not allowed to design your fence, but yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
But I would say not as reasonable as having it be as low as you could and still have it being standing proud of the fence.
Okay.
All right, I think we might be able to come up with a motion here. Somebody want to take a shot?
And that's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comments. Or Anne, so we'll start with Anne first. Thank you, Anne.
Oh, sure. Sorry. So I do have a question. I know, I'm pretty sure that it was this house over the summer. You installed a pool in the back, and we were concerned about visibility from the street. And I think you had worked it out that there would be a sort of a screening plan. So I know that you've shown them the fence, but I think typically the HDC doesn't review landscape material, but in this case, it really is for screening, so that the new pool is not visible from the street. So do you mind just running through that really quickly too with them so that they understand?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
is that part of the, excuse me, Will, is that part of tonight's?
It is, no, it's not.
So I think Dennis worked with you while I was on vacation about, right, that the pool currently would be visible from the street, but he was okay with the fact if you came up with a screening plan, then there would be no need for the HDC to see the pool, to review the pool, because it would not be visible. So I think that this proposal, which is a fence and landscape screening, it's one.
Yes.
You need to see the whole thing, right? The screening is part of this, because the screening is serving a function to block out the view of the pool.
Yeah, sure. Happy to talk about that. If in the materials that we submitted is a drawing of the front, which shows the different plants that are going in, which is the screening plan. So let's see if we expand on that a little bit. And just for everybody to know, as you look at this up the right side of the home, we built a patio, and it's a jacuzzi, not a pool. And there was concern, because I called to just confirm this was okay. And the only concern was, well, if this can be seen from the street, then we need a plan to mitigate it. We had that plan, which is soon to be implemented, which is a lot of this planting that will take place on the right-hand side. And that planting, just on the back side of that planting is a pre-existing fence, which provides blockage from the street anyway. If you're on your tiptoes or jumping from the sidewalk, you could maybe see over that fence and kind of see into the backyard. When you add these plants, you will not be able to. Some are pre-existing plants, others are new ones that are being added in. And does that speak to what you were asking about?
Yes, I just wanted to be sure that they were aware.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
the the fence, of course, runs across the front of this along the sidewalk there, which is the part that was the reason for my being on the meeting tonight.
Well, this, just a clarification. The existing fence, which is sort of a slightly angled thing, right?
Yes.
It looks like there's a piece of fence showing connecting that to the granite post on the street. Is that a mistake or is that fencing too?
That is, well, I can tell you that's not intended.
It looks like it's the same deal on the other end as well.
It does appear to be in the drawing, but that is not the intention. We're not trying to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the existing fence is not connected to this straight line proposed fence.
It is not. That is correct.
So the drawing is not quite right.
The drawing in that regard is incorrect. That section right there is not intended to be there. And Tim, now that you mention it, you're right that down at the other end, our landscaper did intend, I think, one section of fence to go up the driveway. And he thought that corner would look better with, an 8-foot section right there.
So is that what you're proposing?
So yes, and I apologize, I'd forgotten about that. Yes, I think I would propose that because I agreed with him when he said that.
Well, let's open it up to commissioner
Yeah,
members.
sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, understood. Any comments, concerns about that?
Or how is the inside end of that little bit going to be terminated?
That would terminate on a wooden post. That we were not going to add another granite post. Now I'm remembering this now.
Mhm.
Does that 8-foot section, the height of it, does that taper or consistently the same?
Consistently the same.
36 inches.
Consistently the same.
So it's going to go from 36 inches to 8 feet?
No, it's 8-foot long section, 36 inches high. Yeah. Yeah.
Fencing is typically 8 feet long.
Okay. Any other? So we would be, if we approve this with conditions, we would clarify that piece of fencing and the size of the granite and the height of the granite.
Right.
Does that sound right to you? And not having the connector piece over to the existing fence?
Yes, so I think just to clarify what I understood, you'd be making a proposal for 10-foot square reclaimed granite posts.
10 inches.
Sorry, 10-inch square reclaimed granite post, standing, I'd say not higher than 41 inches, and to run along the front of the property, and one 8-foot section up the side of the driveway.
With a wood post at the end, right?
Terminating on a wood post. You're right, exactly.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments before we open it to the public? I see none, so any public comments? Seeing none, so could we have a motion?
I'll try. I think what I heard is we approve this subject to an administrative confirmation of the changes to the size and texture of the post and its height at 41 inches or 40 to 41 inches higher.
With the addition of a small section of return on the driveway.
you. Second,
I second.
thank you, Walter.
Hi.
Melinda,
Aye.
Bill,
I,
Louis,
Aye.
and I'm an I. Will, we appreciate you working with us. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. May I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
The administrative clarification, is that something that I should send into into the office? I'd be happy to write that up and just send that in, or does that happen internally?
And what would you like on that?
Right, if you could just send it into the planning division, I can take a look and make sure it goes into the file.
Perfect. I'll do that. Thank you all. My first time joining one of these meetings. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thanks,
Have a
Will.
good evening.
have a good
You
night.
too. Next one is 12 Main Street, Town of Concord. Northbridge Monument Square Historic District to install 2 temporary signs to accompany temporary public art, which I believe we saw previously at some point. Who is Megan? Are you
Hi,
presenting this?
yes, I'm Megan Zamudo. I'm the Deputy Town Manager. Nice to see you all this evening.
Likewise.
I'm sorry.
I said likewise. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I'm here today to follow up on a presentation that was done, I think, over the spring, where there was the installation of a public art at this parcel. At that time, the public art was approved, but there were concerns about the sign. And so today I am back before you with a revised sign. This is going to be a temporary installation, just like the artwork that is there for 6 months, the request is. The sign would be constructed by Crosby Designs. I think I wanted to note that the design of the sign is consistent with recently approved or at least approved signs in the district, specifically signs at Sleepy Hollow and the Old Hill Burial Ground. Thank you, Anne. The sign would include carved letters in white, the same font as what you're seeing here, the town seal and gold accents. One difference that I wanted to note is that the signs that were at Sleepy Hollow and Old Hill Burying Ground have a green backdrop, and that is a branding of the cemeteries. So to distinguish that, the recommendation is for this Benjamin Moore Heritage Red, which I think some people refer to as a Concord Red as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions they may have.
Megan, the little site plan, I found it confusing as to what's what and what's where. Can you talk to that?
Sure.
Can I pile on to that? I maybe even a reprise of what's the goal of this signage? It wasn't exactly clear to me why we're doing this. Sorry to be
Is this a content question or sorry, just
the overall goal? Why is this signage going up?
It's to complement the approved temporary installation artwork that was installed earlier this fall.
Okay, thank you.
And so if you're looking at this site plan, the red lines are the 2 benches that are the temporary art installation, and then the red dot is where the sign would be.
And I saw something about 2 signs, sandwich board sign and a sign on a
Yeah, there
post.
was a request for another sign, a sandwich board sign. I don't think those were for some temporary events that were going to occur, but we're already pretty advanced in the schedule for the events that have taken place. So I think our request to you today is for this temporary installation that the photos are included.
So the site plan, it's the red dot is what we're talking about. Is that
Yes.
correct?
For the sign location.
For the sign location, yeah.
And the request is for 6 months.
And the sign is parallel to Monument Street? It faces the street? Or is it parallel to some portion of the artwork?
I believe it faces the street.
Okay.
And just distance-wise, how far is it from the nearest art bench, if you will?
It is nearby. I don't have the exact measurements, but it's gonna be in a location that's clear that it is affiliated with the project right next to it.
And staff comments, which I agree with, but as a question, of mimicking an existing permanent sign for a temporary art installation seems odd to me. So I guess I'm not sure how else to describe it. I was wondering what other commissioners think about that. Because the sign will go up and then it'll come down, and yet it's looking like some permanent marker.
I think you're right. You're right on about that. Yeah, it has the form of permanence for something that is decidedly designed to be impermanent, right? Now, a different color, and that's to differentiate it, but a whole different, a different design, different form would differentiate it even more if that's the intent. Seems to be sort of a halfway step.
And again, was that, just wondering, in your thinking about the sign, did you go, what other options you might have considered?
Sure. Thank you for the question. You know, a different sign was proposed several months ago. That there were concerns about the style from this commission. So I think that when we're trying to understand what would be suitable, it's typical to look at what else has been approved. So that is like, without guidance of exactly, you know, where to go here, it's, well, these signs have been approved recently. I hear your point that they are for permanent signs, but I don't know examples of signs for temporary artwork that have been approved by this commission that would be kind of a direction to go in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We thought the character and the coloring and the font was acceptable. So it was a place to start. And I mean, it is not going to be there for, it is for a finite period of time that we're requesting.
Right.
But the signage is to highlight the artwork, correct? The installation?
Yep, it's descriptive of the artwork, correct?
Because those other signs mark historic locations. Do you see the difference?
Yes, I do. But I do feel like the content isn't what we're talking about. It's the outline of it. And so if that is acceptable in other like I don't know how to find something that would be appropriate for this style, because we don't have quite a precedent. So since these were other signs in the district, the thinking was these are signs that are acceptable within the district.
I mean, as I reflect on, I'm not sure the fact that the sign looks permanent-ish makes it necessarily inappropriate. I mean, is the alternative to have a canvas banner or something? I'm not sure that's a better answer. I mean, my understanding is this is a relatively serious piece of temporary art, and having a sign that is substantial doesn't seem inconsistent with that, but maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Bill. I understand the confusion of looking at a sign that's so temporary that looks so permanent. it would be interesting if that sign itself was sort of calling attention to the art in a sort of postmodern way, but also I don't see necessary harm in that, you know. People might, yeah.
Clear acrylic with the text laser etched onto it.
Oh, I'm sorry, was that a question?
No, it's a slightly tongue-in-cheek observation about potential. Well, and we don't have purview over content, right? We have purview
Right.
over just over the form that it takes. But the form that it takes is the same as an historic sign.
I guess all signs come down at some point, right? Sometimes they come down quickly. Sometimes they come down 100 years later. So I think it's between Walter and Bill, I think that's kind of the question. I can see both sides myself, and it is temporary, but it'll look permanent. Not a bad thing.
Well, and so what was the second? What came in second place in as a design consideration?
I can't speak to that. We have here, you know, what is being presented. You know, I will say that this effort is supported by the town and the community and several boards and commissions, reflecting themes that are, I think, stories that we're hoping to tell and themes that are really important at this moment. And I think that the signage is, I mean, the content which you're not discussing will enhance the product that's there. And also if it is, you know, it's up to the commission if it's being considered or approved tonight, but since this is a temporary installation that has been funded with grant money, this, you know, that has been accepted through the Commonwealth, I don't know how we could come back at another point too with additional designs. Like the time would be over and the window would be closed.
In other words, a 3-week continuance is a big chunk of the time.
Well, to come up with a whole new concept with a, I mean, if there were more, I just don't know. I mean, I know this looks permanent, right? Like, I don't know.
To cut to the quick, well understood. And
where to go from here.
That's why I was asking what number 2 might be, because that would be.
Yeah, I don't, this is what I had, this is what we have today. And,
so Megan, you don't, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you got approval from a lot of different folks already, right? Are we sort of at the end of the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so may I say, I mean, the question, the bigger question here is, are we as a commission opposed to there being an illustrative sign as part of the installation? That's the first question. And if we're all okay with the sign, then the second step is, does it make sense just to give approval to this sign because of the time constraints rather than asking for a design rethink that will absorb a lot of the time that would be where the sign would already be.
Yeah, my question a while ago of how close this was, I think that piece of artwork was quite striking. And I kind of don't want to see anything but that. But personally, I know I was told what it is, but you can kind of figure it out. So the sign, I understand there has to be a sign to help some people understand this, but
well,
it's kind of
in
critical
the project
that
as proposed for.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it just whatever the sign, if there's a sign there, as long as it's not so close that it's intrusive to that piece, and I guess we don't have purview over distance, but it's a location thing. I guess it's so that would be just a comment that
sure.
You push that as far away as you can from the piece and still look like people understand it's describing that piece. That's my feeling about that.
One thought
Um,
I had was you had mentioned it should be interpretive, the signage, correct? Explaining what the artwork is.
I believe it gives credit to the artist, which was, and yeah, it has additional content related to the.
So I wonder if something like what we had approved for the visitor center would work in this situation.
I
If
would
people
say
would-
that the image that came last spring was more in that style than this one. And like I said, it did not receive positive comments. So we're trying to go more traditional. Another component about, that your first question of, do we want the sign or not? And I just want to remind this is a component of the 250th, and there was a grant acceptance, and having some, content here was a component of the project as designed originally. We did pull back the sign at first because the other element of the art installation was did receive a certificate of appropriateness, but we always intended to come back with this additional element because it was part of our proposal and our grant proposal and part of our project as designed.
Well,
Well, how about an informal discussion? Are we as commissioners all okay with having a sign? That's the first.
Yes.
I understand the need for it. So I think as long as it's not intruding on the art piece and it's set back and to the side, somebody can find it, but it's not crowding that piece. Almost to let the artist make that decision, if that's possible. I don't have a problem with the sign. I think personally I'm on Bill's camp of it's a different kind of sign. I get where Megan's coming from. As much as time shouldn't be of the essence, I think we also need to be sensitive to what Megan's dealing with, so I'm taking that into consideration.
I agree with what you're saying. My take on it is I think that it's strong enough as a piece that it would stand on its own, but that, yeah, but I understand the desire and the need and the already committed to situation for the sign. So I'm okay with that.
So, okay, so any other commissioner comments? So it sounds like we're gonna ask for a motion. I'm gonna ask for public comments, but ask for a motion to approve the sign and requesting that careful consideration be given to the location of the sign. So it's not intruding on the piece, which I'm sure you'll do anyway, but that's our opinion. Public comments? Did I hear something? No, I don't see any hands raised. I'm doing this out of order. Do we have a? No, we don't have a motion yet, so we need a motion.
I'll move we approve the sign request as submitted.
And can we add with the request for careful consideration of placement relative to the artwork?
Right. So added.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Walter?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
Louis?
Aye.
Kristen, Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So I think we're all set, Megan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
When does the artwork go in?
It's in.
It's
Oh,
in.
oh, I didn't see it. Okay. I've been
Yeah, take a
distracted
look.
by the paving.
It's clear, so you look right
Yes.
through it. That's
The paving is distracting, I agree, but take
But
a
it's
look at
nice
it.
now that it's done.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Does it
Thank you.
reflect vampires is the question.
What's that?
So does it reflect vampires too? That's the question.
Oh.
No,
all right. Thanks, Megan. The next one is Concord 250th Community Participation Subcommittee, multiple locations within the historic districts to install temporary quote unquote witness house and quote unquote 1775 house flags. Who is speaking to that tonight?
Hi, my name's Faye Allen,
Hi,
and
Faye.
I'm speaking about this tonight. The Witness House and 1775 house flags were designed to commemorate the significance of Concord's historic homes and structures that were standing on April 19th, 1775. And I'm a member of the Concord 250 Community Participation Subcommittee, and we're asking the Historic District Commission to allow the flags to hang for an extended period of time in Concord's historic districts during next year's 250th celebration.
And can you just pull up images just so everyone's reminded what was submitted?
The flags were designed to be intentionally understated and antique in nature, and with images familiar to Concord, so that the attention is on the house and not the flag itself. And I think we achieved that. And we did a test trial this spring at Patriots Day week, and everyone was asked to put, we test trialed 10 flags, and everyone was asked to put the flags up close next to the house and not down by the street or sidewalk. And we did not have any problems with the flags during that week where they were hung.
And as I understand it from staff comments, there was a question on constantly working on the correct list of houses, I guess. Is that correct? To make sure that historically you've got the right, as best you can.
Ann Clifford gave me the list of witness houses.
Any other comments, Faye, or should we open it up for questions?
I think questions.
Any questions by the commission?
Yeah, the request is for an 8-month period.
Yes.
which is normally we go for a 6-month
Okay.
approval with the possibility, I would imagine, for an administrative extension of the next 2 months. I think that's probably a more consistent way to approach that.
All right.
Ann, are you okay with that?
Yes. Yes, of course. Mhm.
And Ann also noted that the request to put them out each year on Patriots Day is we have no comment on that.
So just to clarify, so every year I would have to come in front of you and ask for that 1 week permission then? Is that what you mean by that?
No, it's exempt.
No, you would not.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Oh, okay. So every year on Patriots Day for 1 week, homeowners or structures would be allowed to fly the flags. Is that correct?
And just confirming Faye's question, correct? That's correct, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Just as you know, the Historical Commission is doing research on the houses.
Right.
And if the research shows that that it actually is not a pre-1775 house, I wouldn't encourage them to fly the flag that says that it is. That's all.
Okay, and so I'm working with 2 lists. one from Macris, and the other is the one that you gave me. Should I be cross-referencing this list with someone that you could suggest, just to make sure we're getting our the right houses?
No, so, right, we've been talking about this, and the Historical Commission has a grant currently to study the pre-1775 houses, and more deeply than they have been studied.
Okay.
So there may be research coming, evolving.
Right.
Right, and so, because as you know, this is not the definitive list, and some houses that are not on the witness house list probably are witness houses. We know that they've been moved, and they would have been, in the line of they would have seen the British soldiers walk through town.
Exactly, yeah.
So there are some that we know that are probably were witness houses, but are not yet on the list.
Okay, so it's a fluid situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just as a caveat, Macris is not particularly reliable. There's some really spotty information there, so you want to cross-reference it between other sources.
Okay.
I've had problems with it.
Oh, interesting. All right. I know someone who I can contact, so I will do that.
And the information there too is more nuanced than, it says that certain sections may be of this date, but other sections are not, and maybe the architecture of the house doesn't actually reflect, the
Correct.
right. How early there may be like a, 17th century frame, but the architecture is 1920s. So the Macris form would tell you all of those nuances, but a flag wouldn't. So
right.
Yeah, it's just, it could be misleading. But
All right. We have a motion. Let me step back, excuse me. Are there any public comments? I don't see any public comments, so can we have a motion?
Well,
It's after 9 o'clock, so we have to do it.
I move that we accept the request to display the flags from April 1st, 2025 through October for a 6-month period.
May, June, July, August, October. Okay.
For a 6-month period starting on April 1st,
okay.
2025.
Okay.
With the option to request an administrative approval of an extension for an additional 2 months.
Okay.
And that due diligence is applied to determine which locations or which houses should actually be labeled as witness houses.
Mhm.
Do we have a second?
One second.
Thank you. Melinda,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Louis,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Thanks very much, Faye, for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to 3 continued public hearings. Thank you everyone for their patience. We've had a big agenda tonight, so we'll just keep moving. On to 4 Walden Street, Main Street Historic District to replace the existing fat face sign with a new blue Mercury sign. Who is presenting that, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mark Bobrowski. I'm in the list of participants.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Go ahead and proceed if you would.
For the record, my office is in Damon Mill, and I represent Blue Mercury and the landlord, Linear Retail. With me this evening is Michelle Barnes and Lily Goodson of Blue Mercury. Unfortunately, Greg Droz, the development director for Linear Retail, is on an airplane flight somewhere. I spoke to him before the meeting. If Ann would be so kind as to put up the revamped site plan that we submitted. This is our second visit with you. You'll recall that roughly a month ago, we came in and there were some suggestions that were made with regard to the proposed signage. So I think we've complied with all of the requests with one exception, which I'll talk about at the end. First of all, the sign rendering now shows that the Blue Mercury and the Fat Face sign at 4 Walden have 9-inch lettering each. So it's the same lettering size. Obviously, Blue Mercury's a longer business name, but the actual signage lettering is 9 inches tall. The blade sign, if you can flip down. The blade sign has been taken from a metal proposal and converted to a wood proposal. At your suggestion, the painting will be matte finish instead of gloss. And the sign has been reduced with regard to the logo on the sign. And that's, I think, the next one. I think that's number 7. No, it's number 6. The one more back. There you go. So you can see that the logo has been reduced. This sign is now routed wood. It will be painted blue with a matte finish. And the sign has been diminished slightly in size as well. At the suggestion of the commission. It's gone from
I think the recommendation last time, Mark, was that it would be about 1 foot by 1 foot, and that's what we reduced it to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So those were the key issues that you identified for us at our last visit.
So just to be clear, this plan looks like it's the sign's 2.6 square. You said something about 1 by 1, maybe I'm
The
missing something.
logo was requested to be 1 foot by 1 foot.
Okay.
At the last
Thank you.
meeting. So we reduced that overall. It was larger last time we came to present.
But the sign itself did not reduce?
No, the sign itself did not.
It
We
did
were
change
keeping within the
material.
existing footprint that was established by Fat Face.
Right. So this would say you reduce the logo size, you reduce the font on the wall sign, and you change the blade sign to wood, routed wood.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 changes, is that right?
Those are the key changes. The size of the signage was always 9 inches, but we just rendered it accurately on the building. I think there was some confusion last time about the rendering that we put forth. And there was a question about the overall height of that band there, and that's 16 3 3/8 inches. Our sign is 9 inches tall on that.
On the existing band,
On the existing band, correct.
right?
And we confirmed that Fat Face was also 9 inches tall. So we're keeping within the same height.
I cannot recall, so bear with me, but did we discuss the wall sign being wood as well with you?
We did not, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so any other presentation, or should we open it up for comments?
I think the recommendation of the commission has been that the sign have a serif format or font. So we surveyed the businesses downtown. That's another document that's in Ann's possession. If she could put that up, I think you'll be interested in the results. We had our director of marketing from Linear Retail look at all of the buildings in the downtown on both Main and Walden Street. And we have identified whether or not they follow the recommendation of the commission. I'm sure the commission recommendation follows some of the signs, but while she's getting that up, I'll just give you the punchline. There are approximately 57 signs that were part of the survey that we could identify with regard to the style of font. 39 of them are serif and 18 of them are not. So Blue Mercury has suggested that sans serif is part of their logo branding, and we would ask that under the circumstances with 18 other signs similarly featured in the downtown, that they be allowed to put up the sign as they've depicted it in the application.
Okay. Thank you for that thorough approach. Open it up to commissioner comments.
Yeah, I think this is fully responsive to what we were most concerned about. I think the serif, we accepted the fact that this is part of their corporate identity, but the getting the size correct, getting the finish reduced from being shiny vinyl and moving from metal to something that has some relief was what we emphasized in the last discussion, and this seems responsive to that.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
Yeah, I second Bill's comments.
I have no comments. Walter, are you good?
Yeah, I would, I think last time you were talking about Blue Mercury, and this was the test case, was it, for new logos? Am I wrong about that?
They did say that, yes.
Yeah, so maybe it'll influence across the board. The only thing that still sort of bugs me is the blade sign, and if it were white with the blue with a blue B on it, I'd be happier, and I think it would be a little less out of character with things. But I certainly appreciate the broad range of compromise that was made here to make us happy. So I'm okay.
So can we have a motion?
I'll move we accept the revised submittal.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Did I ask for public comments? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think I better do that. Any public comments before we vote? I see none, so we will now vote. Melinda?
Aye.
Louis?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well, and we appreciate your thoroughness and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank
Good
you
night.
all.
Good evening.
Have a good evening.
Okay, we'll keep moving. 46 Wood Street, which we had a walkthrough this morning for a few members with the contractor and the architect and owner, I believe, and
an attorney.
And an attorney, yes, not ours, not our attorney.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bob Drew from Battle Associates. John Battle, who some of you guys saw this morning, was going to be doing the presentation this evening. He got called away for an emergency. I apologize for the change of gears here. He was going to do most of the talking this evening and summarizing what we talked about this morning. Again, sorry, it's not intentional. It's just he got called away for an emergency. We have to, so I'm kind of pinch hitting on his. I did the first presentation, so I'm going to do the second presentation now. I figured summarize our conversation from this morning, and then we have some other other documentation to show you as we go through the list again. Obviously, some of the work has been done, and some of the work it's our responsibility, and some of the work was done before your review and approval. And that's an error on our end, at the team's end. So we had everything stopped. We had a review this morning to go over all the parts and pieces, go through each line item of the application. So I'm going to go through that really quickly here to kind of summarize. It's getting late, but I also want to be efficient as possible. The first piece on the list was the replacement of the roof. That was done under the old previous approval on the main house. If you remember, I think a little more than a year ago, we came in front of you with some parts for this main house, not the garage, the main house. That was done under that one. So that's a clerical error on my behalf. So I apologize for the extra review and the extra conversation, but that roof has been completed. The granite light posts, which we talked about at the first hearing, we're going to totally remove that from the project. Okay, so that's kind of been, as we mentioned that this morning. Replacement of gutters. These gutters have been completed. They've been replaced in kind using fiberglass gutters from the Fiberglass Gutter Company, which we've used on previous projects. In the office, and you guys have also seen it on historic projects we've presented in front of you. We also replaced the downspouts in kind. Part of the application was to paint them in copper, so they look like copper, not due to being a little more economical. Feedback from the board was possibly from a little bit from the last hearing, a little bit this morning, was possibly painting at the body of the house, which we're amenable to. If that's the direction you'd like us to take, we can do that. Replacement of front door lights. We had the fixture on site today. We kind of sparked it up. 2 fixtures on each side. We're showing you imagery from the street, which is probably the best view instead of like up close. It's what you're going to see from the street. So we have 2 fixtures. One left. We want to keep it to the similar we discussed, the bulb options, which we can look into to respect the light pollution. Even though it is under a roof, but we can get into that in a moment after we do the summary here. Replacement stair rails. Our intention was to have all 3 of these to be replaced because some of it's been decayed and been worn away over time. And we previously had an application for you for wrought iron. We wanted to have wood here, and we decided to do the wood rails on the left and right side to everything be in harmony. Left and right has been completed. The center one we said it has not. Last on the list, and again, it was a feedback this morning, which we'll get into in a moment, about the newel post. I can show you some supporting imagery as we go back and go through these points as we talk about each point. Last on the list was the heat pumps, the splits, mini splits. We have 1 on the north side, 2 on the south. We were planning on having these screened so you don't see them. We also talked about potential landscape on this side, which we have a little bit of a drawing to show you. We briefly showed you this morning. These units are fully screened by lattice pens. What else can I say about it? They're used for heating and cooling, and we're also positioning those on the left and right side instead of the front and back, because we figured those were the best locations in terms of the house, but also in terms of what you see from around, because there's a view from the river and a view from the street. Again, some of this work, as I mentioned, this is our error, and this is the summary of our conversation this morning. I have some other supporting documents to show you guys as we go through each point. I'll be as efficient as possible because I know it's 9:30. But that's the summary from this morning. Again, thank you for meeting this morning.
If I may, just Melinda, Walter, and I were there this morning, and we appreciate the number of people you had on your side and the care you took explaining it. I'd like to I'm going to summarize my take on what I saw this morning and let commissioners react as well for those who weren't there. The fiberglass gutters look like they're wood gutters. There's not a seam in them. They're really quite handsome. The downspouts are currently the color of brown copper. I very much hesitate painting this a green copper because you just don't see green copper downspouts unless around here. They turn dark brown. So the aluminum gutters that have been installed without our approval could be considered as copper colored downspouts painted aluminum. I think that's kind of what they are, but now they're painted to dark brown. But I also, the owner is amenable to painting them wall color, which really will make them disappear. So I would be more amenable to that rather than looking at the aluminum downspouts. The mahogany, there's 3 mahogany rails that they essentially took interior designs and applied to 3 exterior stairs with quite a lot of detail. I'm not a big fan of the color, of mahogany, but I really personally don't, this is shingle style Victorian stuff, and exuberant handrails were not that unusual back then. So there's care taken with those handrails. Personally, I don't have a problem with those. And then the screening units are lattice screening units with some bottom stuff. They're making the units go away. I think the units, mini split units are a fact of life these days. They just elected not to put them in the front for good reason. On the back, because it's essentially the public right away from the river, even though it's highly vegetated. We have approved other houses with units on the side screened appropriately, and I think that's what they're doing. And whether there's added planting or not, I think that the lattice they're proposing will work. And then finally, the light fixtures that flank the door, each fixture has 2 bulbs in it for a total of 4 bulbs. We've got pretty explicit requests for lighting, not just uplighting, but horizontal lighting, glare lighting from fixtures. And my personal take is I would request that those fixtures each have just 1 fixture in them, no more than 40 watts equivalent, probably their LED, and not have 2 bulbs in them, so for a total of 4. So that's really the fixtures is the one concern I have. That's because we have so many lights that are glary horizontally. So I'm going to stop there. I just want to summarize my take, and now I open it up to other commissioner comments.
Do I wait till all the comments are said and I just respond accordingly because I have some other
Yes,
alternates? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, if you could wait, I think if that's okay.
Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure we do this right. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
I have no further comments. You summarized it well, Jim.
I have comments regarding the railing on the front. Obviously, they went ahead and did 2 of them without showing us what they were planning to do. I think they are overdone and heavy looking, and I've never seen railing like that in the historic district. I did ask Anne if she had ever seen it. I personally think it's a little bit ostentatious.
Linda, you still there?
You're breaking up, Linda.
I heard her what she said, her comments about the no posts. If that helps. I don't see her up.
All right, well, why don't we continue and hope that she comes back? Other comments?
Yeah, I will say, I was there this morning. I certainly agree with Melinda about the overwrought nature of putting, I think even in putting those newel posts and rails on. I think even in part of the explanation and the narrative was that they were maybe 17th century or 18th century interior or something that were found. I think it's quite out of scale and wrong context of where they are. I understand they're put in place. I wrote down a few notes this morning after being there, and I am concerned, and this is not just for this particular project, but I'm concerned that it's one more time in a tightening circle and a series of do the work and then ask and for approval after the fact. And if I am able to, I would say that as an architectural firm that's dealt with us, with the commission, and done a lot of work in town, that you all ought to know better than that. I mean, that's kind of a slap, but there's an awful lot of stuff that was done. Now, there were security, what hasn't been mentioned, there are security cameras mounted in soffits all around the house. And the owner, actually, I'm still a little bit unclear as to who the owner actually is. There's a trustee owner, and then
Yeah, there's a trustee owner. Peter might explain this a little better than I can. But the person who did a lot of the talking this morning, Nick, he's the, I'm not sure how to legally say it. It's like it's under a trust, and Mark Christopher, who you met, that had the vest on. He's kind of like the trustee, and he takes care of Nick.
We're here. Would you like me to
Oh
answer
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
Robert?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, guys.
well,
Architects.
I don't want to get all distracted.
Yeah.
We're
Sorry,
going
guys.
through this. I was going to say it's unclear who was responsible for what, even though I was trying to figure that out. The cameras that I was mentioning, the explanation was that they were necessary because of vandalism, which included a dead bird being thrown through a screen into the house, which I don't know from what on that, but that seemed a little bit unusual to me. But my sense overall was that the things were being done without approval, with the sort of hedging bets that the things that were being done were the things done that were most expected to be approved by the commission, which shouldn't be the way that it works. So, and on the Newell post, I had a note that it was that particular Newell post was chosen to create a sense of, this is paraphrasing, but to create a sense of nostalgia, which just reinforces to me that it's probably not historically accurate and shouldn't be there. So I guess my takeaway from everything this morning was that there was an awful lot of work that was done where the principals should have known an awful lot better, and it was to ask for forgiveness after the fact. And I understand that the Battle architects may not have been in a position of control over a lot of this. And I believe the last time you were here, you said you hadn't been on site for a year and a half or so. But that's kind of a poor excuse for me to have that level of egregious flaunting of what anybody who had been involved with the commission before would understand should be done. So I don't know where that leaves us. I guess, Anne, my question to you would be, and this doesn't have to be answered right now, but what the consequences are of just denying the approval and leaving it standing as done work that was denied. I think the downspouts should be painted the body color. I'm not happy with the position of where the Mitsubishi units are, but they're there again. They were put in without permission and installed, so do what you can to cover them up. Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. I'll stop my rant.
The security cameras, those are not being submitted for approval, right?
That will be a future submittal. And then because
So
there's some there now, there's some might move, some might be added. We want to come back to you with a complete plan, which includes a handful of other things, obviously before the work starts. But that's something we just need to figure out internally so we can present it accurately to you. And I understand there's some stuff that's been on this. There has been cameras that have been installed, and then, like as the owner said this morning, it's more for security and safety.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll remain silent if you'd like to continue your ongoing discussions, but I'd like to be helpful in just briefly responding to a couple of the concerns that you and other commissioners have raised.
Please go ahead.
Could you tell us who you are, please?
Yes, sir. So my name is Peter Tam. I'm an attorney representing the owners, and Mark Christopher, my colleague, is the trustee owner of record, and Nick Davidson is the direct beneficiary of the trust. So on behalf of ownership, I want to acknowledge and accept the fact that some of this work was done without your authorization, but we're here not simply for you to look at this and authorize it, but to acknowledge that that was a mistake on our behalf. And so we take full responsibility. It was not done intentionally. This is a large renovation project that the owner has been before you multiple times. And we don't have an excuse. So we fully accept the fact that you don't have to approve anything here. But just to respond directly and address a couple of your concerns, which might be of help. And I know Robert has done a little bit of additional research as well, which might inform how you view one of these elements. With respect to the light posts, the intent there was to remove them because that was a source of controversy and concern. So we wanted to do the right thing there. And I hope the commission recognizes that. With respect to the gutters and the downspouts, we agree with the sense of the commission, and we'll defer to you if you would. We want, this is a replacement in kind. There was no harm done, and but then again, we did not appear before you. So if you would direct us to modify the color of those downspouts, we're prepared to do so. With respect to the front door lights, to Mr. Whitney's comment, we are open to suggestion. Obviously the wiring is there. If you would like to see that the light levels minimized, we can do so. And if you want to see us return with a modified fixture, if you want to condition any approval or any potential approval on modified lights or a different light program, we are open and prepared to consider that. With respect to the stair rails, obviously they're required by code. And I can appreciate the comments from some of the commissioners. I think before you make any determination on that issue, it would be helpful for Robert to show you, because he did a little more field work around town, to reflect what has informed the nature of those wooden rails. There was a lot of time and effort put into them. If ultimately the commission is dissatisfied with them, we can re-examine them. But I think it would be worthwhile just taking a brief look at Robert's precedents from around town. And lastly, on the heat pumps, again, I am not making excuses. We are accountable for installing those, but it was critical to keep the renovations moving, that there be heat and cooling in the building. And the locations were informed. They are really the only locations to be able to provide a modern heat source. So we, again, are not making excuses. And, you know, I think on a going forward basis, this mistake will not happen again. So we acknowledge that there are going to be future changes. None of that work will occur, whether it's the driveway, hardscape modifications, and the final accounting of the cameras, which, as I understand, are somewhat inconsistently treated around town. But we will pull all of that into a final package for your consideration before any further work is done. So I'd like to just, if you'd humor us, just have Robert show a couple of those aspects on the Newell posts, which I think have attracted your much of your commentary.
Thank you for those comments, Robert. Just 1 second, if you would.
Sorry.
Do you have an image of what is built now, just so people know what is there before we start looking at other stuff?
Sorry, guys. Can you give me 1 second?
Sure.
I apologize. I should have had this right at them.
And Mr. Chair, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Yeah. Out of everyone who was there this morning, is anybody a resident? Or is this all being done on spec?
I would say, I purchased that property in 2019 and I lived in it until, how long ago exactly?
2023.
So I lived in it for what, 3.5 years total? With my then significant other. And we lived in it through COVID. Then we broke up and it was a lot of house for me to carry. And I now am living in another house at 744 Main Street, which is a little more adapted to the size I need. And so I'm probably going to put this on the market. I'm in discussions with a local realtor. Once the renovation is completed, I'm very probably going to sell it at that point.
So the work is all on spec to sell the place?
The work is, most of it was, the garage, for example, were things I'd drawn up close to 5 years ago with Battle Associates, planning then to do a renovation to live in the house. The house was in quite poor condition in many regards. And so I began this renovation not having fully decided whether I was going to sell or not, but now I'm leaning quite strongly towards selling for the reason I've given.
Mm-hmm.
So the things in the renovation, many of them are interior and not visible, like new kitchen countertops. A lot of them are things I would have done a little differently if I was sure I was going to keep it, but everything has been done in general to quality specs to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I understand. I was just asking for clarity.
Okay, that's
So do we, so this is, to answer your question, Tim, this is the photo, this is taken this morning after our site visit. This is kind of a view from the street. Obviously sorry for the workers there, trucks are being away, but that's the rail that's been installed.
That's considerably smaller than the one on the other side, right?
1 second. I believe they're identical.
The Newells as well?
Yep, that's correct. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to get both of them in the. Sorry, guys.
There are very subtle differences in size. I do not know for a fact whether the left and right ones are identical. I think they are. Apparently, builders have a system whereby they blow up and shrink things like newel posts by a geometric template in order to make different parts of a building match, something I'd never heard about. So in the event that we keep these newel posts and put similar ones on the front porch, the ones on the front porch would be very marginally larger because there's some kind of, I don't know, algorithm or something for how to code these things. Essentially, they're the same size, but with a little bit of adjustment for the sort of what's immediately around it.
okay. And then Robert, if you could move to your quick slideshow.
Sure, I'll kind of go through these. This is bouncing around town after we spoke this morning. Obviously, it was a good day to take photos, but some other similar in spirit to the new posts that were kind of on site, not a direct match, but like, you know, ones with balls on it. Larger ones would have like the panels as we spoke about.
Are these? Do you know if these are historic district or just Concord houses? What are these?
They're within the historic district. I couldn't tell you exact numbers. I apologize for that, but it wasn't.
That's okay.
We know that where the boundaries are. But we have seen some other.
And note that all of these are painted trim color.
Right, they're not in mahogany.
And Mr. Chairman, I thought that point that you made, if you would prefer, much like the downspouts, to see not the body, but a white or an off-white, that certainly could be a consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Keep in mind also, all of these houses that you photographed are Victorian houses, and your house is shingle style, which is a different type of newel post and rail system.
Most of those houses are on Hubbard Street where I live, like 4 of them. I recognize 5 of those houses. And one of them is on Sudbury Road and Devon's, but there is one on Monument Street that is of a similar time period, I think.
If I can just add that the difference between the pictures that you're showing us and what the house actually has right now, the newel posts are at the bottom, not at the top of the stairs. And so it has a very different look. It's, I want to say it's top heavy as opposed to bottom heavy. It
Understood.
would be more handsome if it were at the bottom. But that's all I have to say.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
There was a technical reason we added the third newel post on the left side. It wasn't in the original drawing, as the first concept drawing that Robert did. And the contractor had, there's some irregularity in the way it matches the wall. And basically it couldn't be joined to the wall. And so I was told the newel post, the third one on top on the left, had to be done for technical reasons. And once that was in, we decided to balance it with a symmetrical newel post on the right. Theoretically, they could probably come out, but I don't want to speak to that technically. It might be a possibility.
I will say that I thought that the newel posts you had in the back of the house would have been more appropriate. They're a little smaller, very, very attractive. And these probably, I mean, not that cost is an issue here, but probably would have been a lot less expensive and maybe a better look. I just have never seen the newel post at the top of the stairs before, except inside the house, in a house, any house, but not on the outside.
As I say, it's a fluke that we wound up with that third newel post on the left. It was originally planned as 2. On the right, we do have a quite large landing. It's, I would say, about 4 by 9 feet approximately. And so that is possibly, there might possibly be a logic to having the posts there. I'm not sure. I greatly hesitated between requesting these be painted in mahogany to match the previous rails similar to those on the deck on the back, or whether to paint them white, which is what I saw posts on most other houses on staircases painted, so they kind of blend with a trim. And I had a lot of trouble making up my mind. I could see it either way. In the event that we keep the newel posts, I think a change of color is certainly possible.
I think changing the colors would be better, but not as good as making a smaller newel post at the top of the stairs.
Maybe let's just, I think where we are is we should just go through these in the interest of trying to resolve these. This is similar to another house we had that was submitted after the fact. We had to take each piece and see if we can come to an agreement for ourselves as well as for the owners. Can we agree as a commission that the gutters and downspouts, if the downspouts are painted wall color, we are good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can we agree that the screening units, which they're proposing lattice units to screen them, are acceptable, not put on the, and there's 2 that are minorly visible on the right side and one that's pretty much hidden on the left side. I find them I think they're fairly tall, but they're going to be enclosed in small lattice enclosures. Are people okay with that?
Well, they're hidden on the left side from the street side, but not necessarily. Oh, there you go.
On the right side, they
the
will all
river
get
side, huh?
enclosed, but on the right side, they're more prominent as an enclosure.
The enclosure will be higher than the unit. It's not gonna go like halfway up. It's gonna go the full
So
way.
and I think you were proposing, Robert, that or someone said that they were going to be cedar to weather, not trim color, which I actually think is a nice idea. So they're not per se part of the house architecture, they're just a garden.
We've seen that before on another project we've done before. It wasn't changed on our part of our renovation, but we've seen a project we just completed on Monument Street had something like that. It was cedar and left natural. The rest of the house was painted and looked quite nice and didn't look like an eyesore.
You can also paint cedar to have it weather faster. There are coatings you can put on.
I think Sickens makes it, if I remember correctly, but
That would make sense.
yeah.
And to move, I'm avoiding the handrails just for the moment, moving to the light fixtures. I haven't heard any comments on my suggestion that we have each fixture have 140-watt bulb flanking the doors to be. And personally, I would, you look at our requirements in the historic district, and it's pretty clear that we are as concerned about horizontal throw as uplighting. So the attorney mentioned looking at those fixtures. I would like to see something where the glare is not in your face when you walk in the front door, if you're willing to look at those fixtures.
I have an alternate fixture I can show you right now if that helps.
Well, let's keep going.
Sorry,
Bob,
I'm
here.
sorry, Tim. I apologize.
No problem. And then
If I may just say on fixtures,
Walter, yes.
we were rather explicit in the last go round on this about what we were looking for, and I believe it came down to a single bulb in each of two fixtures with the combined output no higher than 40, and the preference was for one fixture at that point, I believe, of 40, and everybody seemed to nod their heads and think that was good.
Is that how we talked about two fixtures totaling 40?
Now we're back to talking about two fixtures.
To be clear, Mr. Drew said that the fixture that he had proposed came in a version with one candelabra per fixture. And we said that's preferable. Then we had the discussion of 1 versus 2.
I'm just going to show you guys right now. Sorry, this is the fixture this is the smaller version of that fixture you saw this morning. This is the 2 bulbs. Again, Patty Brothers, we've used it on that project up the street from our office on Monument Street. That little porch job, the porch extension you guys saw a little over a year and a half ago. So we kept it the same company because I know you like the fixtures, and and it's also a local company and whatnot. But there's also we also, in looking more into the research from that last meeting, and if I have a good photo, and this is, please ignore the fixture, but there's an option of seated glass, so that kind of helps mute. It doesn't totally take away the light, but it does mute it a touch. Does that make sense? You know what seated glass is? It's not like opaque or frosted or something like that. This is also seated, and so it does take a little bit of the curse out, because it gives enough to. Obviously you got to see it when you're up on the steps for safety reasons, but this is the smaller version of that fixture you saw the last time, and the fixture you saw this morning.
That fixture looks with that glass looks much more historically appropriate than the seated glass.
Okay, just natural glass. I'm just saying what the options are. We're kind of looking into the
with the idea that we'd have a 20-watt bulb in each. Bill, I think you were saying that's what we talked about last time.
I think the governing concept is the total light output of the porch fixtures, and 1 versus 2, you just adjust the size of the bulb.
Okay.
Accordingly.
Glitters done. So getting to the rails,
while you're on lights, Tim, just check mark the removal of the post lights is acknowledged.
Right. No bollards. We acknowledge that, and we appreciate that.
We can follow with a memo explaining that afterwards if you need to. So
right. So getting to the railings, I think both Walter and Melinda made convincing arguments, and being an architect, I have a hard time arguing with what their points were. I would propose to the commission that we ask the owner to consider reworking, either modifying their existing railings to a simpler design, or in keeping with shingle style, because essentially it's a shingle style building. Possibly they can keep the newel posts. Just look at these railings and see if they could be modified to simplify based on what you've heard tonight. Or replaced. We leave that up to you. You can come back with both, but that's, and to consider painting them trim color, which so how does the commission feel about that?
I think that's fine.
Yes.
Owner, or attorney, do you have comments on this kind of approach?
I think it's a good approach. I have no objection. I guess the question for the commission is if you'd allow us to, it may be helpful for our return, rather than to show you a schematic, to actually paint them and to render at least one of them as modified. We might be able to do that.
Sorry, Peter, can you, I blanked on what you meant. Can you explain that again?
Well, rather than just provide a sketch or we could try to modify one of these in the field and paint it.
Bring the model.
You mean just to show us a sort of a full-scale mock-up?
Right. I mean, we have something better than a mock-up. We do have the rail there. So, you know, and then that way, we could photo it. Certainly it would be there, if any members were interested in seeing it. But I think the idea is good by our standards.
I don't have a problem with that. What are other commissioners' thoughts? I mean, a full-scale mock-up is always the best thing, so. Everybody good with that?
Well, yes, except that don't do it all, so that if we
No, we would just do one.
we don't
Do
want this
one.
to be the same as before, where it gets done and then you say it's done and you haven't really showed us exactly what's.
That's not the intent. I guess one question to Ms. Shumway's comment, if the newel post that's at the base was to remain and be painted, and then the upper post was to be simplified, could
That's
that
correct.
address possibly your concern?
That's correct. I think if you brought the heavy part down, which you probably can, I'm assuming you can, I do think that would be fine. If you just reversed where they are, and I think if you painted it white, it'd probably be even better. I don't dislike I'm not totally against the dark color, but I also am a realtor, and I can tell you that I think people would like white better. But that's my personal opinion.
Well, that's good insight. Thank you.
So this mock-up, we just, you've got architects on your team and lots of people, they can take our comments and interpolate them, and I think should be able to get a pretty good shot of what we're trying to achieve, I hope. So we'll just see how it goes.
Well, we appreciate both your time this evening and the time you took in the field.
Likewise, thank you. So we have a lengthy, I guess we're approving everything with comments about approving everything. Does anybody want to try to take a shot at
I think
summarizing
I
this?
think you need public comment as well, don't you?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Any public comments before we make a motion? I don't hear or see any comments. Who wants to take a stab at summarizing this?
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to just walk through my notes, you can clarify if that's of convenience to the commission. I'm happy to do so.
Why don't I can make a motion on this thing, right, as a chair?
No,
No? Oh, never mind.
nor do I think one of the applicants should be making a motion.
Well, I'm
No,
not making a motion, I'm just offering conditions.
Yeah.
as I heard it, just for clarification, you can ignore these. As I heard it, the granite light posts are to be removed from the application.
Correct.
The replacement gutters would be approved. The replacement downspouts would be approved, provided the color is modified to the wall color.
Yes.
The replacement front door light would be approved, provided the spec for the smaller fixture with a single bulb of no more than 20 watts in each is provided.
Correct.
The stair rail would not be approved. That matter would be continued. We would modify and rework the stair rail for a simpler look with a trim color for your further consideration.
Yep.
And the heat pumps as screened would be approved.
And natural weathering cedar.
That's right.
Okay, I think somebody's got to just summarize that on our side and we can.
I have one more bit of comment, which is,
Yeah.
Since just about all this stuff has already been installed and there's still a couple of outstanding questions about some of the major components, it seems to me that it wouldn't cause any great distress to anybody to just continue the entire discussion till we have input from the input on the railings and the lighting. You know, I can't see that it's doing any harm to postpone approving those components of things until we have a greater sense of what the overall package is. Just my 2 cents.
Are we, Robert, are you going to be submitting a different fixture or is the one you showed? I mean, obviously we haven't submitted that. You just showed us that. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. This was, you know, researching between the two meetings. I'm not intending to find another fixture. I think this is the smaller version of the fixture you saw this morning, and I can send this off for record if you want to. I think we've done that in the past. We've also come back to you with like you've partially approved our work with the condition to say you have to come back with us with the light fixtures because in which we have done on past projects with you. Whatever is convenient. I mean, I'm happy to send this off to Ann tomorrow with a summary, if that helps you guys.
If I may, Walter, speak to the point you raised. I'm always having my contractor squawking that you know, he needs something to do to stay on site and not go off on another job. And there would be some functional advantage possibly to having him complete the cages without installing them finally, so that you can see the mock-up. And there might be some advantage to painting the downspouts if they were approved tonight, because then you'll be able to see the house facade with the new, possibly repainted in part newel posts, closest to what the finished version would be. But I'm just throwing that out in case it's any possible use.
right. I mean, I know what you're saying, Walter, but I don't see any harm in approving the things that I think we've kind of agreed to and continuing on the things that we haven't agreed to. We were really talking about mahogany rails and light fixtures are the two items that are not properly submitted or properly approved. So I would suggest we get on with the items that we've verbally approved tonight and have continuance on the mahogany rails and the light fixtures. Are there other commissioner thoughts on that so we can wrap this up?
I'm fine.
I think that's fine.
So now we need a motion to just summarize this. Anybody take notes when Peter was talking?
I'll take if somebody will help me along the way, if I make a mistake, I will.
I'll help you along the way, Melinda. Thank you.
Okay, I move that we vote to approve the application with the following items that will be approved now, which are the painting of the downspouts, the
Melinda,
lattice. Yeah.
to match wall color.
Oh. No. I'm sorry, you said,
I said to match the wall color.
oh, I'm sorry, to match the wall color. Sorry, I missed that. Okay,
And I will say also to help you along that you're talking about approving the installation of the gutters, not just the painting of the gutters.
that's
Correct.
two. Okay, the installation of the gutters. And then we want to approve the lattice
Greening.
coverage of to hide the HVC equipment. And then what else is left?
Be painted or to be weathered cedar, natural weathered cedar.
All right, if we want to, okay, naturally weathered cedar of the lattice enclosure. And we will, I don't think there's anything else, right? Now
There's
The removal
agreement
of the posts, the granite
Yep.
post.
well, I was going to say that should be continued, the newer post.
Or the
No,
granite,
this is-
granite posts, the granite
Post lights.
lights.
I'm sorry, the what light?
Removal of the post lights in the driveway.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I forgot that was even in there. Yes, removing that from the application.
And
And
removing the roof from this application as well, right?
that's correct. Removing the roof since it's already been done. And that we continue the application with the light fixtures and the railing. And we will want to cut sheets for the light fixture and for the railing. When some changes have been made, we will review that. I think we can probably drive by, take a look before we would actually vote on that 3 weeks from now.
And for the commission's benefit, we can notify Ms. Clifford when that work has been done, if any of you are interested in stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That sounds right to me, Peter. Are you okay with that?
It does, and we really appreciate the time spent.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded, Walter.
I'm trying to decide if I should just abstain. So why don't you come back to me?
Bill,
Aye.
Louis,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
I am an aye,
Then I'm going to abstain.
and we have one abstain, so this passes. And thank you, and we will look forward to seeing the light fixture and the stair modification. And we appreciate your time.
That's October 30th is the next hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
I'll move
Okay,
to adjourn for the evening.
now we got one more.
Oh,
We cannot forget Tom Wilson. Sorry, Tom, you've been waiting for hours.
Yeah.
This is for Right Tavern for the sign. Tom, over to you.
Okay, can I do a screen share that just to kind of walk through what I did since our last meeting? And just to recap on what we're doing, we're talking about for the Right Tavern to use the sign that is currently on the front of the building, a mock-up of it. As you can see, this is where it is on the building. And to make a smaller sign to go on the back of the building to show the comparison. The current sign is 8 feet by 12 inches by about an inch and a half thick with a frame around it. The proposed sign would be about 6 feet, and to keep the same proportions, it needs to be 9 3/4. I'm not sure exactly what I submitted in my written document, but talked to my guy who's going to be building the thing, and he was saying to keep in proportion, it needs to be that width. It would be located, as we talked about, at this location, because we're working on eventually creating that as the main entrance, because this is sort of from the focus, the Right Tavern towards Concord Center rather than First Parish. And so eventually we want to create that, and I'll mention a little bit about that a little bit later, but we'll work on some design concepts on that. To show what I did, because I think there are a couple of things. You all had some ideas and some suggestions. I'm going to respond to those in a second. But one of the things that I heard in the last meeting, we wanted to see an actual mock-up what it would look like. So I went and I basically set up little pieces of paper and that are 6 feet by 9 3/4 inches, and you'll see that in white. And then what I've done in a very clever way to try to put the sign in, to see what it would look like. So you can see the size, proportion, and location of the sign, and to take a little bit closer, here's a closer look of what it would look like. If you remove the Right Tavern, the little thing that I've inserted there, you'd see that white piece of paper. So in showing you that's what it would look like, that would be the size, that's the kind of proportion. So hopefully it addressed any question that you wanted to see, which is a mock-up. Quick question before I move on to the next point. Any questions? Just, or you want to, maybe we should, it's a procedure for me to carry on, or should I ask a clarifying question? No, not for comments. Okay, good. You're all asleep, I guess.
Oh, very clear.
Possibly.
It's what we ask for.
So the commission wanted to see what the new sign would look like, as accurately as possible. And so that's what I've tried to do with that. And clear up any kind of confusion on that. The second thing, there were some other suggestions that we should add the word entrance to the sign. We should paint it, the wording on the brick, or also a couple of people suggested why not use a sign that's on a post that'd be outside. And I wanted to address that because there actually is a post, but actually. Back up. What we could add the word entrance, but my feeling is that it's really not necessary because it's pretty obvious that that is the door to the Right Tavern. And so I don't want to over complicate it or I don't want to look, I want it to be really simple, I guess is the term I'm trying to get to. And sort of in style with what is appearing on the front of the building. And the other part was that there is about a post. This is an alternative. There is a post just outside where that location is, and here's a picture of what the post looks like. And if you wanted to see what it might look like, as best I can, and I'm not if you can clearly tell, I'm not a graphic artist here. But if you put a sign that's like showing what that would look like, and to give you two ideas, I was sort of thinking about, I've talked to a couple of different people, we could have two different signs. We could use one of those two versions or anything else. I could go off and study that and come back to you with a more proposal if that's something you felt was important. But my sense was that this is the simplest, cleanest way to do that. We would hope that when we build a new entrance, assuming we get all approved everything with you all, that most likely we would use that sign as well. So it's not going to be something that we wasted, but it can be used. So I'm offering a suggestion from our proposal, my recommendation, or my proposal is that we would go forward with the sign that's shown here. If you want, I could do more study. We could develop a mock-up about putting on a post instead of on the building, but I'll leave that up to you for discussion. There you go. I'm all done.
Thank you, Tom. Comments?
I think the simpler version against the building strikes me as more historically appropriate.
I think it looks visually correct. Historical.
Walter?
And my question comment is, are you going to need a variance if it's a third sign?
Say it again?
Will you need a variance as it being a third sign?
Good
might
question.
suggest?
So I talked to Paul Cretin about this, and he said, he informed me his sense was that the historic sign is on the front, the white sign, this is a historical marker, not a sign indicating here is the building, here is an entrance, here's how you get into the building. So, and his judgment, and Ann could verify that, was that this would be the second sign. The other sign is a historic marker.
Fair enough.
I think that was his opinion as I interpreted what he said.
That makes total sense.
One thing we will be doing, I'll be coming back to you in probably a couple of months, is we're going to paint the building, and we have funding. We have a national parks grant that allows us to do a lot of repair on the exterior of the building, fix a lot of the clapboards and the rotten parts and everything else like that, and we'll be painting the building. I'll come back to you with color. We can talk about that too. So it'll be a richer, deeper. I happen to like the red version as opposed to painting it white, but that's for a conversation we'll have later. So my sense is it will blend in well with whatever color we have.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
I'll make a motion if you'd like, or do you have public comment first?
Yeah, public comments. Not sure we have any public left, but just us.
They all went to bed.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
I move we approve the submission or the placement of the sign as submitted.
I second.
Thank you. Walter?
Aye.
Louis?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Melinda?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Nice presentation.
Thank you very much. You know, and as what somebody said earlier, I really do appreciate what you're doing. It's interesting to see a really collaborative discussion between developers and your all's views. You guys are doing a good job.
I think you were here for the whole night, if I'm not mistaken.
For most of it.
I'm sorry about this.
That's okay. I got a lot of other work done. You all have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. And there was something else, but can we defer?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to make a quick announcement that the National Park Service just submitted a packet, or 3 packets actually, about a new wayfinding signage system that extends not only through the park but throughout Concord and throughout its historic districts. The Historical Commission is going to be looking at it, as part of the Section 106 review tomorrow night, at 7. And it's up on their website if you wanted to take a look. So technically, because it's the federal government, the HDC doesn't have jurisdiction over, because you're a local government, so local government can't really tell national government what to do. But they're they want to be good neighbors. They want to work with the town. And of course, there's the whole Section 106 process. So certainly, if you have feedback, please, send it along, and we can make sure that the national park receives it. And
Do you mind sending the link to that page to us?
No, sure, I can certainly do that. And I would guess, I shouldn't speak for them, but I would guess that if you felt strongly, this is something that will affect, quite a lot of Concord, they would probably be willing to come before the HDC as well.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that, and I'll certainly send the link.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ann. Other than that, I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move, we adjourn.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks.
Great night.
Thank you, everybody.